Yep.
Call this meeting to order. I can make a motion to appoint Mary Ann Ross as interim fiscal officer.
Second. Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Ms. Toronto?
Yes.
Please call roll.
Mr. Quigley?
Here.
Ms. Toronto?
Here.
Ms. Knapp?
Here.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Just want to start off with a quick statement. As you see, I've set up my own personal video camera to videotape this meeting, at which I will provide a copy to the fiscal office until the township provides its own solution. This is an effort to provide decorum to the meetings and to our community. These videos will be provided in a professional manner so we're able to serve our community with unbiased and unedited video access to review, enabling our residents to judge our actions honestly without manipulation of the content. So just so everybody understands there is a video. It's not on you, it's on us.
I think that's a really great idea, Rob.
So moving on, the first thing would be agenda changes. Ms. Toronto?
5C, Mr. McCarthy has some further work to do on that, so we're going to remove 5C.
Anything else?
I do not have anything else.
Ms. Knapp?
Nope.
The only thing I'd like to do is to, under old business 9, add C, the zoning board compensation, and item D, Board of Zoning Appeals compensation. And that is all I have. Therefore, the agenda is approved as modified. I'm going to go ahead onto the next portion, which would be public comments regarding items not otherwise on the agenda. So if there's anybody in the public that would like to make a statement or comment that is not on the agenda, please come to the podium, state your name and your address.
My name is Bill Martin, 532 Shanahan Road on the south side. I'm here to find out what's happening to our roadway up there. Went to Berlin Township meeting last Monday night, and they said they're taking everything from the center of the road south. I asked the guy from the county engineer's office there, I says, how far are you going from the center of the road? He says, at least up to 70 feet. Up to 70 feet, I'm 39 feet from the road. And I don't think that's right. I've been up there for 48 years. And there's a lot of us people on the south side. We don't want to give up our property if something Berlin Township wants to do. They say they can't move the electric poles that goes down the north side of the road. Well, they was put there, so they ought to be able to take them down. But they said it's cost prohibitive and they don't want to do that. So they're saying they've got the plans all drawn up and everything. They're taking the south side of the road.
And this is all, and I just found this out this morning myself, and this is all in reference to the fact that Berlin Township wants to put a assisted living facility up there, and they need a turn lane.
114 twin single homes.
And they need a turn lane to go into that facility.
Yep.
And essentially the county is looking at the options. And Ms. Hugh, you spoke with the county this morning?
I spoke with the county on Friday.
Friday?
Correct.
And what was the information that you were provided?
The response from Mr. Riley, the county, was basically that they have not had plans submitted yet, and so that there's not much to comment on just yet, but as soon as the plans are submitted, we would understand the left turn lane a little more. But you're saying that there's been more information that's been presented?
Yeah, that's incorrect.
Orange Township didn't have somebody there representing our side.
What is going on, to my understanding, is there is a rezoning there that was recently passed by the trustees, and it involves creating a left-hand turn lane into that facility. But in lieu of that, the developer may be contributing money as a fair share portion to widen all of the Shanahan Road, all the way from 23 all the way down to Pyatt Road. So it's very likely that the entire road will be widened, not just the turn lane.
Evidently, somebody's giving you information. Monday night, they said it was one of the far as going down to the school district, that's as far as they was going.
Well, that was the information I was
Yet
given
Evans
last.
on the north side of the road has got 100 acres up there. They don't know what he's going to do yet, but
They
they
were
know
saying
they're going to put homes in
from the
there.
school west to 23.
Right.
But what he's saying is that they're looking typically in a widening, you take from the center line, and you take as much right of way from the north side as you do from the south side.
Exactly, right.
And what they've been told or what they've heard in the Berlin.
It's all on the south side,
It's
right?
all on
I've been
the
told
south
that
side.
also. But it's for the entire road, it's not just for a turn lane. They're looking at waiting to do the turn lane and the developer contributing a fair share amount that the turn lane would cost, and instead widening the entire road. But it would, it was my understanding it would be several years down the road.
It's supposed to be 2016, that's not too far away.
Right, but they were, during a zoning meeting there, they explained that it costs a lot of money to widen the road and put a left-hand turn lane in. So they might have the developer wait and contribute that money to widening the entire road. But it is my understanding it would be much of that road.
But why,
The widening, yeah, not just the left-hand turn lane.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. If you could stand up, state your name and address.
Sure can. Ellen Curtin, I live at 472 Shanahan Road,
Thank you.
2 doors down from them. I just found this out 2 days ago. And I know that all my neighbors, this is just now getting out, and this has been planned for a long time. And we were told that the people on the Burling Station side, down in front by 23, those houses have already been discussed, you know, and maybe settled, I don't know. But I'm just saying, I don't know if they've been.
Yeah, not settled, but
talked.
discussed. I've heard there have been discussions, but
There's
not
been
necessarily.
discussions, well, and then if they're talking about doing our side of the road, we're just getting little bits and pieces of this, and that shouldn't be that way. And, you know, it doesn't matter. It's in, it doesn't matter. It must be in planning because everybody's talking about it. And we're just now finding out about it. And I'm in agreement, we bought those properties years ago. I can see widening the road, but I can't see taking, all our property to do it. That's just not right, it's not fair, and it's half of our property, our front yards. What do you think that's gonna do to all of us? It's gonna be awful. Taking our trees, taking, everything. Plus, if we go to sell, it'll, we've been paying, about the taxes and everything else on our properties. You're talking, there's 11 houses right there. Total, on that side. And there's gotta be another solution for a turn lane.
Yeah, I don't
It's
think
not
it,
our fault the developer, bought that. That's fine if he did. He wants to
is it
develop
your
that.
impression that it's been, I don't think it's been decided yet, has it?
Oh, yeah.
It's
I've seen the diagrams and everything, while they're gonna fix the road and everything. They've got it. I've been to 2 meetings
There
up
might be a
there.
law against
Because they're
doing
telling you
something
people
like that.
something
It's
different than
not
they're saying
Well,
up there.
I can't believe they wouldn't have notified, they haven't
No.
notified this township.
That's the reason I asked him, I says, why didn't you, why hasn't Orange Township been notified what you people gonna do? You're taking Orange Township's property, plus our people. People on the north side, they don't care, because they've already told them, you people are safe. It's gonna be from the center of the road south. And they've got the plans of the road, the roadway drawn and everything on the plans.
I met a
They've
Martin,
got 4 proposals.
I met a Martin, and when he said that they would take up to 70 feet on our side, I said, well, why don't you just buy our house then, and we're gonna sell on the road? He said, that's being considered.
Well, we don't know, consider, don't throw that out in the air. You're just getting all of us, all upset.
That was the contractor. Bill.
Right, and that contractor can do whatever he wants in Burling Township, or in Orange Township. And those wires crossed and whatever, the electric wires and all that, they put them in, for a good reason. But I know in different townships, they move them when they do developing.
Yeah, they have.
Is that
If they
the,
put a housing development and they move them.
right, and those are just metal poles, though, those are not, those are a little bit larger ones, correct?
The what?
The metal.
Doesn't matter.
I don't know, I'm just saying,
They're pretty large.
They're pretty large, they're a lot larger.
It's
You gotta realize too, the water line and the gas line,
Right.
all the way up Shanahan Road is on the south side
It's
too.
on the south
And
side.
that's about 30 feet from the center of the road. So all that has to be moved.
And Ms. Hugh, in all those conversations we've had in the past with the county about Shanahan Road, did they ever bring this up, that this was in plan?
no.
Because I never heard anything from them.
Time I heard about it was,
called
this
them last
gentleman
week
called me
about-
last week.
Well, I was here at the zoning meeting last
And
week.
then I talked to
he
Tom
told me.
Fairhay, and we called Doug Riedel at the county, and then Rob Riley called me back. And it's my understanding that the left turn lane will be required as part of the development. And so, and then my only question for the residents is, even if they're going to pay their fair share, who's going to acquire that right of way? If it is it then Orange Township's responsibility to acquire 100% of a road widening? So I just think
What
that,
about everything on
yeah,
Water
I think that there's a lot of
Rights?
information that Orange Township doesn't know yet,
Well,
that we've just been made.
And they're still gonna have the left-hand turn lane, but they were gonna widen the road and put the
They
turn
can
lane
line
in
around
instead,
that by
right?
23.
Wow,
Ms.
right.
Knapp,
If
They
they're
want
already
that
gonna
turn lane
take
all the
some of
way.
it on Orange Township,
They got
there's
four
vacant
proposals
vacant
on it.
land right there.
Okay.
And it's about $4 million to do it.
To do what, 4 million? for
And they
one
said it'd be
turn?
divided in half. And that's not counting the, getting the right of ways or moving the utilities or nothing like that.
Ms. Knapp, are you still the zoning secretary there?
Yes.
Are you taking the minutes on those meetings?
Yes.
So how long were you familiar with what was going on there?
Just probably a month and a half or two, but they said it was far off in the future. And in fact, nobody there could find any information on it. So we thought it was our impression and the residents' impression that it was pretty far out. But I do think somebody at that meeting was going to look into it because nobody knew anything.
Was it ever brought up, and also from yourself, knowing that they would engage in Orange Township to let us know about this?
It was my impression that they had had no meetings and that both townships be notified. What I think happened is the residents, there were about 50 residents at this meeting for the it's actually like a senior living facility. It's independent, 55 and over community. And it was my impression that the people there were discussing the residents, and then someone at the township was actually going to be proactive and look into it. So I haven't had a meeting there since that's discussed. I think that was probably about 5 weeks ago. So I hadn't been updated on it, but maybe that was the impetus for getting the information. Maybe they actually
even considered
contacted.
a bike path on our side.
Oh, and a sidewalk.
On the south side, and a sidewalk. This is all discussed, and I was so
I
surprised
mean,
and shocked.
they've got, they showed us all the
We put
plans.
everything to
It's-
the
Yeah, I think Berlin sought out the information.
And I asked them, why don't you take and put your exit out on 23? This is where your sign was posted for sale. 125 condos. I said, nothing was mentioned about Shanahan Road. We've never been notified of what was going on. I asked him in one of their meetings why we wasn't notified. He said, you was over 200 feet away. I said, you're affecting everybody on that side of the road, so everybody should know what was going
Well, at
on.
least they should have notified Orange Township.
Ma'am?
They should have notified Orange Township. I'm
Well,
pretty
or that
disappointed.
either one. So
Very
you could, people
disappointed.
could have notified us.
Yeah.
But nobody
Well,
said
we
a
didn't-
word.
Like she said, 2016, it was our impression it was really far down the road, and I only work for the zoning department there, not for the trustees, so.
Yeah. 'Cause
We'll look into it though, for sure, and
I
talk to the
wouldn't have known
county
nothing
engineer.
about it, or probably nobody else
Right.
would, because I'm the one that was spreading the word. Warren Berry, the one that's the deputy sheriff for Orange
Yeah.
Township here, he's the one that stopped by the house and told me what was going on. Other than that, I wouldn't even know what was going
And
on.
I wouldn't know.
And they told us none of our business because we was over 200 feet away.
Well, the town.
And why, I
engineer
asked
really
him another
should
thing, why
notify
don't
us.
you put it out on 23? Oh, we'd have to build a bridge and walk us a little creek that's back in there. We gotta build a bridge across that. I said, whoopie-doo. I said, you got about 8 lanes down here in 23 and Shanahan Road. You probably got 40 or 50,000 cars a day going over here. What's wrong with that bridge? I said, it's still going every day.
Well, we can contact the county
But
like
they just
tomorrow.
wanna take them
and
two
write that
pieces of
and talk to
property.
them
That's what
about
they
it,
take.
What's going on, and follow up,
But any
right?
chance you didn't, when 5 weeks ago you found out, you didn't talk to Tom about it to find out if he heard anything or not?
Well, it was supposed to be years down the road that we couldn't find anything online, none of the residents knew anything, none of the zoning commission knew anything, and they were gonna look into it, and I hadn't received any information back, so
Could you ask the lady back there that you've been talking to, Beth, it is?
she,
I mentioned the letter that I seen up at the Berlin Township, and I can't remember the name, Reason or something like that.
Rob Riley?
Huh?
Rob Riley?
Friday.
From the county?
He's the one that wrote it.
Right.
what didn't
And
that
he wrote
just
it
say
to 4
that?
people. There's 2 different initials on it, and 2 other names. That's all. Orange Township's not even mentioned on it.
We can get the letter, because.
And there's 4 proposals they're wanting to do.
But didn't Beth find out about it last week? Did you say that the resident contacted you a week ago?
He contacted me last week.
Did you follow, and you followed up with the
I
county?
talked with Rob
Okay.
Riley on Friday.
All right, so,
Called down and asked for zoning, zoning said be the best. Get this number, and I gave it, and she called me the next day because she didn't work that day or something, but anyway, that's okay, that's how we got in contact. And that's the reason I'm here, and people on the north side of the river, they don't care, because 4 of them went to the meeting last week up there at Berlin, and they told them that everything south of Orange, or Shanahan Road, they said, good, glad it's your side, not ours.
well, I wish someone had
I
told
think
me
they're
that
much
this
as
was going on, because I
prosperous
would have called the county myself and I wish I had talked to you, I would have called the county
I
myself
talked to the
and
county
figured it
on
out.
Friday. Rob said the plans
Well,
had been
right.
presented, that there was nothing to address from the right of way. This is the first time that I'm hearing about a letter being being written. I was unaware of that. So I've known about the development for about a month.
Right.
I've heard about the left turn. My understanding was it was all based on Berlin and it was happening there. Last week was the first time I'd heard that they were talking about Orange Township right of way and affecting Orange Township residents.
Right, it's still pretty shocking that they wouldn't have notified us directly.
Right.
I'm really disappointed in that.
And then, one more thing. We don't know whether it's a Section 8 housing development or not. If it is, you know what problems you got down here and this one down here.
And unfortunately, we don't have any
It's not
control.
Section
I
8,
understand
yeah,
that part, sir.
It's
But
actually.
what I'm saying, they're telling you, one of you's got to be over 55 years old to get in there. The 55-year-old passes away. What happens to the 40-year-old wife that's with
No,
you?
it's all set.
Does she have to go or something?
It's all
They
in the
didn't
deed
say.
restrictions. I can get you a copy of the minutes. It's all in the minutes. It will be, and I think the rents were going to be about $1,600 a month, if I'm not wrong.
$900 for one bedroom, $1,300 for two bedrooms.
And then the 2-bedroom, 2 garage, I think is
And the
$1,600.
roads ain't gonna be wide enough to get in, because Orange Township's gonna have to come in, or Berlin, got to come in and come back in through the trailer park to get back to the complex in there.
If the minutes already outlined the complex and all, did it talk about the road being built and how it was being built?
You already asked me that question.
No, I'm just asking because
it
it
did
will.
not. I would, if
Okay.
it mentioned that, then I would have brought it up. What they discussed was the turn lane and the potential widening and the fair share portion. At no point did they say this was anything that was coming up soon, and Berlin was going to follow up on it, and we have not discussed. I guess they probably brought it to the trustees and not back to the zoning commission. If
Okay,
it was just
I
discussed.
just figured in the zoning process they might have brought that up.
I would
Okay.
have,
They're also
no.
having parking on one side of the road
Oh, yeah.
for the car trucks, so they can get in.
Right.
Only one,
They're
inside
supposed
the
to
development now,
have
that
to
is.
get in, or a certain road to get in. They were discussing that too.
Okay. Well, we greatly appreciate you coming in and bringing it to our attention.
I appreciate you listening to us.
We'll definitely
Because
follow
we're all
up on it.
concerned.
No, I
Oh, yeah,
understand.
we're
If they
concerned.
widen that road the way they say they will, I'll be 39 feet from the road.
That's how far we
We all, we're all our houses.
All of us down through there.
We'll definitely follow up
We're
on
losing
it.
everything.
Sure appreciate it.
Well, again, thank you for coming in.
How are we gonna be notified or anything?
Yeah.
Can I get-
We'll work with,
Meetings or what?
yeah, actually, if you could, leave your name and number with Ms. Yu, and then we'll coordinate with the county, we'll talk to the county, and we'll get the zoning inspector involved, and start,
And Beth, can you pass the contact information on to me that you,
Okay. Yeah, we'll do anything we need to
I need
do.
the phone numbers. Can I get-
And we are going to.
740
roads for the rest of our neighborhood.
815 0538.
It was Bill Martin?
Bill Martin, 532 Shannon Road.
All right.
And also another number, 740-816-8131.
Okay.
At our age,
8131.
pick up and move, have
Thank
to
you.
move. After 40
Yeah, if we're gonna take our side of the road that much, let them buy the whole thing.
That's
Yes,
shocking.
the story they give, we can't move an electric pole, but it costs too much. Well, they should have thought of that before they got the grant.
Okay.
I think, appreciate it, thank
Well,
you.
thank you.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to
No,
us.
thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comments? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on to the zoning report. The only thing on there is as usual, the zoning hearing meetings coming up. There's a nice lengthy list, which is over there at the table. If anybody wants to grab a copy, feel free. You can see some of the upcoming zoning meetings. I'll go ahead and turn it over to Trustee Toronto for the maintenance report.
Did you add something to the zoning report?
No, that was under
Was
old
it?
business.
Oh, sorry.
First item on the agenda was is bringing forth the deaf child sign again. Since the last meeting, I've actually gotten an email from Rob Riley at the county with a summary of his opinion for the deaf child sign. He's actually, because it is not included any longer in the MUTCD, his recommendation is that we don't install it. However, we've talked about it at the last trustee meeting. It was approved at that point, but I don't think that we have to install it, but I want to bring it back to the trustees given the additional light of the email. But keep in mind that we have a deaf child sign already in existence in the shores. And so the basis behind the MUTCD and not including it is that it was getting to the point where there were so many warning signs that municipalities were putting out that people really weren't paying that much attention to them. And so they've changed the child at play sign to playground. They can only be put at the in front of playgrounds now. And so their thought is that they're really kind of ignored. The resident that contacted me has some issues with her child getting on and off the bus, with some people that are going around the bus even when it stopped with the stop sign out. And they've had some people yelling some things at them because it may take some time for her child to get off the bus. And so I think with the deaf child sign, it may give some understanding of what's happening on that road. But again, I would leave it to the trustees before we would install that. And then the other, just since the resolution is written for both, for one, the other one is the resolution for the no outlet sign at Greenspire and Tulip. We don't always do a resolution for these, but this is a dead end with Tulip being, the final phase of Tulip being constructed, and that area being now developed and turned over to our roads. People that get out to the end at Greenspire, if they don't turn north, they can't get out to Ash Creek and get to South Old State. They're turning south and getting into the cul-de-sac. And so they're getting a lot of people in the end of the cul-de-sac that are just turning around. And so we have a number of no outlets on cul-de-sacs that end up getting that kind of traffic.
Where would that be placed again?
That would be placed at the corner of Tulip Way and Greenspire. Any questions?
So what do you want to do then? You want to install a different kind of sign?
The deaf child sign
Or is he
that
saying a
was
different
approved the
one?
last time.
Right, but he's saying that a different sign should be installed.
No, we're still requesting the deaf child. I'm just bringing it forth since Mr. Riley had responded to my request for his input.
And the 25-mile-per-hour signs are installed at the proper locations? In a
The
good
25-mile-an-hour signs are installed per past trustees and per approval of roads as we've accepted them.
You know, from my perspective, it's just a matter of awareness. I understand what he's saying, that it doesn't provide any guidance to the person driving by. It's just more of an awareness. And if it makes the residents more comfortable having that awareness, I don't see a problem with it. I mean,
I think Orange Township has been on the conservative side of putting up signs. I don't
Right.
think, especially with Mr. Gladman here, that we are in excess of any signs. And so I think that this request, given the fact that we already have one up in one neighborhood for a deaf child there, that it could be provided in this instance. But just for the trustees to know, it's not in the NUTCD.
right.
I'm also more concerned about kind of the harassment they've been getting with the bus stopping and they're taking a while to get off the bus. Maybe if the deaf child sign was in that vicinity, it might control some people's road rage a little bit
Yeah, I
and
think it's-
patience.
And I would agree. I think it goes back to the awareness of people just understanding that there's something there.
Of what's going on, and that the bus just isn't stopped there. There is
Right.
something happening. Right. And with that, for approval, the notification of the 5 neighbors where the signs would go then would take place.
Oh, good, thank you.
Anything else before I read the resolution?
I'm not-
Just now? I move the adoption of the following resolution. Whereas Section 4511.11 of the Ohio Revised Code directs local authorities to place and maintain traffic control devices in accordance with the Department of Transportation Manual for a uniform system of traffic control devices upon highways under their jurisdiction as necessary to carry out provisions of the Ohio Revised Code or to regulate, warn, or guide traffic. And whereas the Delaware County Engineers Office has reviewed the erection and placement of certain traffic control devices at the request of the township and provided its guidance. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Township Trustees of Orange Township, Delaware County, Ohio, having reviewed the guidance of the Delaware County Engineers Office, directs the Maintenance and Park Director to erect the following traffic control devices. 2 warning signs reading Deaf Child, 1 each to be placed in the area of the termini of Pine Ridge Drive. A warning sign reading No Outlet to be placed corner of Tulip Way and Green Spire.
Second.
Ms. Bronco?
Yes.
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Smith.
Thank you. Great. Next item on the agenda is discussion for drainage for 400 West Orange. This is the resident, this is Mr. Josh Stoner. We've had a couple different discussions, and actually let me pass out upon, this might just be a little easier for everybody to follow along, I think. Just some kind of dashes about some different areas that we're talking about. Mr. Stoner lives in the highlighted / red property, and he's had water in the front ditch along the road for
14 years.
14 years? Okay.
Yes.
Please state your name and address.
Josh Stoner, and I live at 400 West Orange Road.
Mr. Stoner's contacted us over at least the last year or so.
Every year for 14 years.
Okay. Mr. Ray used to clean out the ditch on a regular basis.
For 12 years.
Okay. We did an REA, request for engineering, with the county, and the REA basically came back because the ditch is actually maintaining what it's supposed to do, is to keep water off the road, and because it's doing that, it meets the needs of the township. The county engineer's office, though, did take the next step and go on to give us 2 alternates if the township so chose to do something. And what some of those alternates have been is, if you see the red circled line through there, is shifting back. Right now there's an open ditch in front of Mr. Stoner's house, and then there's a 60-foot area, actually it's 99 feet, of area that comes out of the North Orange Association, and then there's the adjacent property owner, which is a Mr. Wiggins. And the REA, which I've provided, kind of gives the 2 different options of either shifting the drainage back away from the road, because currently what happens is it goes underneath a pipe at Mr. Wiggins, and that pipe has just been there for so long, and it connects to a pipe underneath his driveway, which has collapsed, and so the drainage backs up. It doesn't drain very well. There's actually a high point within that 99 feet, and what we've been doing is my initial thought was the easiest solution is let's try to take Mr. Stoner's drainage to an inlet, which is over at West Orange Road. However, that inlet is not installed to a depth that the grade would allow us to take the drainage to the east. It has to go to the west or to the north. Unfortunately, where those red dots are a number of utilities, including a water line, I believe a gas line, and a fiber line. We have talked to Mr. Wiggins. He is open to providing an easement to get down to the creek. While we've been exploring this, and I've included a couple of different estimates that we've talked to some engineers on. The D Steps Excavating is an estimate to install a 2x2 catch basin and to just excavate along the red line area as an open ditch. And if you'll notice the disclaimer below it about the utility markings, which those utilities are there, they anticipate that $8,200 to be 3 to 4 times more if they'd have to go in and hand dig and get into those utilities. Then we've also gotten 2 different options from Tom Dew Excavating. One is for $3,500, and that does not anticipate the utilities, from what I understand, and is not hauling away the additional dirt. The other option is $7,520, which would install the catch basin and remove the dirt. The question to the trustees is basically, if the ditch is functioning, do we spend taxpayer dollars to go in and do additional work? Now, when Mr. James, Aaron James, who's our maintenance supervisor, was getting these quotes and we had marked up the area, we had looked at an option of doing the work ourselves. And it was Mr. James that actually thought, well, the black dotted line here on Mr. Stoner's property might be the easiest way to do it. Keep the easement there, keep away from the utilities. And original. That estimate comes out to just under $4,000. Now, another thing that I'd like the trustees to take into consideration is the fact that we are working on a study for West Orange Road. That study includes the area from West Orange Road from the Liberty Township line to just past the railroad. It would anticipate that at some point, given a 20-year study for the road, that it would anticipate some type of widening and look at some additional right-of-way. And I've actually mentioned this to Mr. Stoner, that maybe the township trustees would like to look at an option that if we would go in and perform some additional drainage work that would help out the ditch, he could provide the easement, but we could also look at some type of an agreement where it could be potentially a win-win situation, where we could start to look at the right-of-way that we would be needing based upon that study, and also help Mr. Stoner out with his drainage.
Yes, I have a couple comments. First of all, thanks for the last 18 months of putting up with me.
Thank you.
First of all, for the last 12 years, the township has maintained the ditch. I know Beth says that the ditch works as is necessary, but I have a document here. This is from the county engineer's office. This is the way that drainage design is supposed to be done. And in my reading of that, the ditch isn't draining the water. It's simply going down a hill, and it's not going down a hill because it's not graded properly. We don't have to spend thousands of dollars to fix it. All we have to do is have the maintenance guy come out, grade the ditch properly, and the water would flow down the hill. That's my suggestion. Also, one of the questions or one of the points that Beth brought up when we were looking at it is that the culvert is not big enough to handle the water that would come off my property. So I took some pictures, and I'd like to show those to you real quick. This is the ditch looking west from my property. Back here, if you can imagine, this is where water piles up to about 6 or 7 feet across, and maybe 3 feet deep, or about a foot deep, excuse me. This is a little bit further down, same thing. This culvert is plenty big enough to handle the water. There it is again. It's had some maintenance done on it before. Also, from this picture, let's see right here, you can see down here the road is starting to buckle right here. And that was done when this drainage ditch on my neighbor's property was put in. When this was put in, this started to buckle. I don't think this is installed properly. So this drainage ditch is plenty large enough to handle the water. This needs to be graded properly. Thank you.
Thank you. So from the standpoint of grading that properly,
not to, with all due respect, I think if we could have graded it properly, we would have done so in the last 12 years. It comes to an issue of being, of the utilities and exposing utilities that are already existing. We can't get the ditch any lower than what it is. What Mr. Stone is referring to is putting more water into the ditch. What I'm assuming the pictures that he showed you are the pictures that go underneath the road now, which have been causing erosion. And we've been very hesitant to add, that's Mr. Wiggins?
Yes.
Yeah. So the culvert that goes there now, we have done some improvements to. We've put some concrete around it. We've extended the pipe out from underneath the road. But the fear is adding any additional water to that would just erode the road faster. And because Mr. Wiggins' line underneath his driveway is blocked, we can get water into that pipe, but it remains underneath the road because it can't flow underneath the driveway. And Mr. Wiggins installed, he owns to the center line of the road, so he's allowed to put in this drainage. That was to drain his yard with some landscape work that they've done recently. We did request, he talked to the township about installing that. We requested that we get some drawings and that we be able to supervise that. It was installed without our knowledge. I did have some conversations with Mr. McCarthy regarding that because that's also within the right-of-way, but because it's not putting water on the road, it's draining his yard. He's not responsible for draining someone else's area. And the county engineers, Rob Riley was out on site with us, came out and looked at it, and his opinion was that the drain is functioning to what it needs to do, which is to keep water off the road.
Just to comment on that, when I asked Rob what design standard is used for that, the way he's talking is saying it's working as necessary. He said that's the way ditches are made, that there's no written standard, but there is a standard. It's right on their website, and the ditch isn't functioning.
Is this from their website that
Yes,
they
it
gave
is.
us?
Yeah. It's an 18-page document. I didn't want to bore you with 18 pages of drainage. But I thought that caught the gist of it in my interpretation.
What I indicated, Ms. Hugh, is that the township's concern is the functioning of the drainage of the ditch. I did not get into anything with Mr. Stoner or Mr. Wiggins, but that is where the township's public interest lies.
I know that this is a lot to absorb all at once. I do think at this point, if the township were to do anything, the most economical way to do it would be to follow the west side of Mr. Stoner's property down to the creek. That would avoid the utilities, and it would also avoid us having to deal with a neighbor down the street and getting an easement from them. Because it would be draining road water, we would need an easement so that we could maintain that. I would just like to kind of present that to the trustees and maybe look at the option of what happens in the future with future right-of-way and if and how those two items could fit together.
What do you think of that solution, Mr. Stone?
Beth just mentioned that today to me while I was in my car, so this is the first time I've seen it. I'd have to look at that, and there's a line of trees down through there, so I'm not exactly sure where that line is. My property line is behind the first row, so you would be digging in the trees.
We could take it right down along the tree line.
The tree line?
Yeah, we would do it. You'll see we've got a trencher, 6-inch trencher, 180 feet of tile.
So if that was to become clogged, would you maintain that?
Yes, as long as we have an easement from you for
Right.
that for that area.
What if it costs more than your estimate?
We'd have to look at that. I think we've looked at this for 40 man-hours, 2 days of equipment. It shouldn't take that long, so I do think that this is an estimate that could cover those costs. A lot of this equipment is in-house. As long as Aaron's measurement of 180 feet is correct, then the line of the tile is one of the main material. The material costs are $1,045. The rest of it is in-house labor and equipment.
What kind of, are you putting in like a black plastic pipe?
Probably a perforated pipe.
Yeah, perforated
Yeah.
pipe. How big?
6 inch.
6 inch? I would entertain that, but I'd have to discuss it with my.
So you're saying the actual outside cost, not internally, is about $1,000? Just for
About $1,000.
So everything else is internally already with the township?
Correct, and about two days of our maintenance crew.
I think that's more appealing.
Obviously.
Then $8,000?
Yeah, and I would entertain that. I just have to give it some thought and walk along that side of the property and-
Okay, well-
and make sure.
I agree, I'd like some extra time to consider that also.
That's fine.
I'm not ready to make a decision yet.
And we can come down, if you want to set up some time this week, Aaron and I can come down and we can kind of show you where it's going.
Unfortunately, I'm going on
Okay.
vacation, but
Okay,
I'll
well, good for
contact you when I get
Okay.
back.
Okay, well, that sounds good.
Great.
We could do some stakes, because we would need to do an easement. We'd need to consider who pays for that easement, for the legal, for processing that.
Well, if you can get that additional information, let him chew on it for a little bit. While I was on vacation, hopefully somewhere nice.
Yes, it is.
And then bring it back and
Okay.
we'll discuss it.
And keep us surprised by email, if you could, the trustees, any more information that you get.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank you,
coming
sir.
in.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is a then and now purchase order for Jess Howard. This was to relocate the flashing school light that needed to be switched with the 45-mile-an-hour sign on East Orange Road.
I make the motion to authorize the issuance.
Are we entertaining questions?
Oh, I thought it's already done. So,
Right now, why did we do this? Why did we have the school flashing light relocated?
The flashers were located per the engineering plans for the road widening of East Orange Road. There were no speed limit signs put on the plans. When the speed limit signs were installed, they should be speed limit sign, then school sign, and they were opposite. And the only way to handle around the flasher, there was not enough room between the flashing light and the roundabout for a speed limit sign.
Okay, so the 45-mile-per-hour sign now will be in front of the flashing light?
Correct.
Are there two flashing lights or just one?
Yes, there's flashing light
On
on
either
the
side?
east side, or on the west side as well, and that location was acceptable.
Right, and that's exactly at the location where the school zone starts, right? The flashing lights?
It's where the Delaware County engineers came down and staked for us to put it.
Okay, all right, that's all.
Rob, you have anything? I make the motion to authorize the issuance of a then and now purchase order to Jess Howard Electric Company in the amount of $1,200 to relocate school flashing light.
Second?
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
And we have pay request number 3 for the Glen Oak Playground. To Spectra Contract Flooring, is there any questions? No. Make the motion to authorize release of payment to Spectra Contract Flooring for pay request number 3 in the amount of $20,700 for Glen Oak Playground.
Second.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
And for the pool renovations, this is the final payment, correct? for that?
Retainage, correct?
Yes. Make the motion to authorize release of payment to Philip Patterson, DBA Patterson Pools, for pay request number 3, retainage in the amount of $3,841 for the North Orange Aquatic Center pool resurfacing project.
Second?
Ms. Taranto?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
And season pass refunds.
These are overpayments the next year. As we've discussed before, once the pool's open, if someone sends in a payment and they've either paid for a 2-year-old or miscalculated, we process so they can get into the pool immediately and just refund the overpayment.
Any questions?
No.
I make the motion to authorize a refund to Scott Tabor in the amount of $10 for overpayment on season pass.
Second.
Ms. Taranto?
Yes.
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes. I make the motion to authorize a refund to Jamie and Stacy G. Arrow in the amount of $10 for overpayment on season pass.
Second?
Ms. Taranto?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
I make the motion to authorize a refund to Venkat Kanar in the amount of $55 for swim lessons due to being out of town.
And I'd just like to point out the agenda that I'd given to Mary Ann showed these as both $45. They're actually $55.
Second.
Ms. Taranto?
Yes.
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes. I make the motion to authorize a refund to Holly Brewer in the amount of $55 for swim lessons due to being out of town.
Second?
Ms. Taranto?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
And additionally, with the swim lessons, both applicants that applied for the refunds requested the refunds prior to the lesson starting, and both slots were filled.
Babysitter pass.
Okay. We've had a number of babysitter pass requests after the application have been processed. For some reason, I don't have an explanation as why. We've had a number of people that have said that they've either forgot or for one reason or another wanted to add a babysitter after the passes have been, the applications have been processed. We've not allowed this. The application specifically states one babysitter can be added to season pass application at time the application is submitted only as an additional person to the pass. However, all babysitters must be accompanied by children. Without the parents at the pool, babysitters may not utilize the pass individually. The babysitter has been a benefit to both parents that work or an option for parents to have their kids come while they're at work, or even if they're not working, for someone to bring them. It is also the largest loophole that we have found in the season pass application since we've taken them on at Township Hall, which is why we've instituted the babysitter pass needs to be included. We don't do that for, we've also had, dad come up and say, I wasn't really going to go to the pool, but my work schedule's changed. I'd like to be put on the pass, and we've added them. For direct family members, we've tried to accommodate them. For babysitters, it has just been the biggest loophole.
What do you mean by loophole?
We've often had, 15-year-olds put on a pass to babysit a 14-year-old because that's a friend that didn't have a pass. We get a lot of those. We get a lot of those applications to begin with. They're sent back requesting confirmation that those children are their dependents. And so we've found, since we've been processing at Township Hall, that by them adding after the fact, that those are people that are non-residents and additional friends of the family that are being added. I do think that in some of the requests recently, for one reason or another, they may be looking at situation change. The issue is, as a government entity, when we waive it once, we need to be consistent. And the rule was put in place to kind of do what I was requested to do, which was to tighten up the season passes. If you remember 2 years ago when we brought this into Township Hall, we suspected that we were selling season passes to non-residents. And the thought was, oh, we'll get about a dozen people that are non-residents that have been getting passes. We found over 250. And a lot of that we found, as we've been processing them here, include non-family members, include people that don't live in the household, include people that aren't Orange Township residents. And as I've explained to people that have called me, they pay the park tax. And that the park levy pays for the pool, pays for construction of the pool, and helps fund the operations until it's reimbursed, which the pool does support itself right now. And so, but when that's explained, for the most part, I get a lot of people that understand it and accept it. They can bring additional people. Season pass guests is $6 this year. They don't have to pay a non-resident fee of $12. So we do make accommodations, but we decided that after getting a number of requests and really some demands, that after talking to my trustee liaison, that it might be a good idea to bring these requests to the trustees to see if we can look at them on a case-by-case basis. I had invited both people that are on the list this evening to participate. Mr. Gadram, I did speak to him today. He had another meeting tonight that he couldn't make it. He is not on the pass. His wife and 2 children are. And so he's requesting to add a babysitter. And then the other one is a Mr. Rosenberry, who has a different situation. He has a significant other that also has children that is requesting to be added to the pass, and he's requesting 2 babysitters. And I've also had some other phone calls that are waiting for kind of what happens tonight to determine if we're going to bring more to the trustees, if the policy is going to be upheld, or what the decisions are going to be. So I'll leave it open for discussion or questions.
It does say on the application that the babysitter needs to be added at the time of processing, correct?
Correct.
Well, I think in order to avoid the loophole, if we do it on a case-by-case, maybe that will limit the loophole a little bit. From, people just adding their friends' kids on or something.
And so would that mean that each request would need to come to a regular trustee meeting to be added? So they would need to wait to the next trustee meeting to add the rest?
I guess part of the problem there is setting the criteria to what you set a standard of yes or no. So that would, even if it's a case-by-case basis, what's the criteria to enable it or not?
Right. Well, and I don't want to paint any of the residents in a bad light, but it is not unusual for a question of babysitter or anything else to come into the front desk with one story being told to the front desk. And when they don't get the answer that they're looking for, they're told that they can speak with me as the Director of Maintenance and Parks. And then when they speak with me, it's a different story. It's just, sometimes it has a little spin on it, sometimes it's additional information, and sometimes it's completely out of left field. And so it's really been an eye-opener to me, the season pass applications. And
as I mentioned to you when we met to discuss these items, one of the things that even if you do a case by case this year, basically the loophole's been exposed. So next year, you're gonna have people applying for a babysitter prior to when the deadline's off, and you're really not gonna, I mean, what's gonna hold them from people exposing it then?
Well, when the application comes in and they're adding, you know, a 16-year-old with a 15-year-old to watch a 15-year-old, we send it back and basically
So you do have criteria
question.
already in place?
Well, we question to confirm that they're actual dependents.
Right.
If they're dependents that aren't on the list for this year, we'll question, you know, where did they come from? And we have a number of families that have foster children that, you know, have joined families that have those mixes, and people that weren't on the pass last year, or additions or subtractions. And most people just call up and say, you know, well, this is the deal. This is how it is. Most people that sign up for the application and put in their babysitter before the pool opens and as they're doing their season pass application know their babysitter. That's kind of how they're in the system already. What we've found is once the pool opens, that's when people that have not been able to acquire a pass are looking. And so people that don't have babysitters are kind of, you know, the person that stands out in front of Kings Island with that extra ticket that somehow he got. You know, and it just is. It's a great pool to go to. People really want to attend it. And it's very reasonable price if you can get a babysitter pass for $10.
Do you have any comments, Ms. Knapp? I know you've expressed a lot of concerns about the process.
Do you have any comments?
I just asked her some questions. I'm just wondering if you had anything.
I hadn't heard your opinion on what.
I was asking, I'm asking if you have any comments or questions. I'm just trying to get information right now.
I always wonder if the babysitter pass shouldn't be increased somewhat next year.
That's also an option to look at.
How many requests have you received for the babysitter pass after the fact this year?
Probably as many in the last week that I've received all last year.
And how many is that?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I'd say about a dozen. Keep in mind that there are a number of people who've called before this last week where, like I said, we had someone that really kind of demanded that it come to the trustees.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that.
No, but there are a number of people that have called that I've explained the process to and explained the rules and read the back of the application, and I don't have contact information for them. They've been told no, and they've walked away, and they don't have a babysitter.
So you had 12 within the last week, and then...
I don't know
or
exactly how
about 12
many.
within the last week, and then how many since the pool opened?
I don't know.
Have you had any since the pool opened?
I've had a number since the pool's open. And a number of different requests coming in different ways. They catch them at the front desk. Some make it to me, some don't make it to me. Once they're told the policy, a lot of them just accept it, and that's the way it is. They've probably read the application or not read the application. And once it's been explained that it is part of the application as a babysitter, they accept that policy.
Now, what do you think is the difference? Someone could feasibly add a babysitter to the pass before the season starts or after.
No, once the pass is...
I mean, if we were to allow this, I'm trying to figure out what the difference would...
that's what I'm asking you. What is the policy? Right now it stands that the babysitter can only be added at time the application is submitted only.
Okay, but does the application state that additional family members cannot be added after the pass has been submitted?
It's not very often that we get that request. Occasionally we get a dad that comes in and wants to be added, and we'll typically do that.
But does the application state that you can't add a family member on after?
No, it does not.
Okay, so we state that
and that's one of the reasons why we add the family member, because it doesn't state that we can't. But that's why we've been adamant about not adding the babysitter, because it does state that.
Okay, and you said it was a big loophole, even though in theory you could have somebody at the beginning of the season, it's a 3-member family, and they could add 6 people on that they claim to be dependents, and they could just be friends. Is that correct? In theory?
I don't have any authority to
Well,
question.
you don't have authority, right, exactly. That's my point.
Or,
is that-
or to challenge who are their dependents. If
Exactly.
we have a question on the application, we'll send it back with a letter asking them to confirm that they're dependents. They've signed the application that says that they certify that the information is true and correct. And if for some reason that would come to light in the middle of the season, we would probably try to revoke their pass.
Wait, you said you sent back confirmation for what exactly? You sent a letter back?
Confirming that we send a letter, if there's any question that looks odd on the application, there's additional people from last year, 3 or 4 or whatever, we just send back a letter stating that the application is different. Can you please confirm that these people are your dependents?
Are there any criteria for sending the letter out, or is it just a judgment call?
If it looks suspicious, if something's different from last year, if something just doesn't look right.
But there's no criteria for that?
That it's
for
people that
questioning
weren't on the
someone.
pass last year, people that have been added. If there's a reason why there's a 15-year-old babysitter, if there's a reason, sometimes there's over 21, we send those back and say that they have to buy their own pass.
But with, okay, so if you do look at people's passes from the year before,
Mhm.
and then you double check to see who else is on it. But the babysitter doesn't have to give their date of birth, so you keep saying 15-year-old babysitter, but,
The babysitter should be giving, if they give a name of a babysitter,
right, but they don't have to
which
give.
they
a
do
name.
not have to give a
No.
name of a babysitter, because we have a number of residents
Right.
that the
Have
mother-in-law or the
different
mother watches one day,
Right.
the mother-in-law watches another, a neighbor takes them
Yeah,
another
so they don't
time.
need to actually give their name, and
We don't do very many of those.
mostly it is a name, okay.
Right, we really try to limit those.
Limit the babysitters
The,
without a
the
name.
non-identified
How do
babysitters.
you limit those?
We just request that they have a specific person, and if they just don't have a specific person, then we will give them a blank babysitter card.
Right, I think it, doesn't it say on the pass that you don't have to give the name of the babysitter?
No.
It doesn't?
Doesn't specifically say that.
What does it say about the babysitter?
One babysitter can be added to season pass application at time of application is submitted only as an additional person to the pass. However, all babysitters must be accompanied by the children without the parents at the pool. Babysitters may not utilize the pass individually.
Okay, so it neither asks for, I mean, I know there's a line for it, but I always thought people wouldn't put a name there because you could have any number of other adults taking your kids to the pool. Okay, so, but you were talking about babysitters. You said earlier a 15-year-old babysitting a 14-year-old, but don't you have to be 16 to bring someone to the pool?
That's usually our first flag.
Okay. So could we put that in the application from now on for next year, saying the babysitter needs to be 16 or over?
It's part of the pool rules.
But it should be on the application, I think. I mean, it would help limit
Right, I
people.
know that the youth is on there. They need to be 13 to come in together.
It wouldn't hurt to put a little line saying must be 16 or over, unless you think that's a good way to catch people, I guess. I don't know. I mean, I think if there's only 12, I mean, I can see families.
Actually, it does say that youth, children 12 and under will not be permitted upon the aquatic center grounds unless under the direct supervision of a parent or other responsible person at least 16 years of age.
Right, it says that, but next, I'm
Correct.
talking about where it says, where, you know, somewhere, I mean, in the rules with the babysitter paragraph, you could say the babysitter must be 16 and over.
We could reiterate that again, that the issue is that we have trouble fitting all the information that we want to put on the pass, on the pass.
Well, if it's only been 12 people, I mean, I don't know how many people are gonna really, I can see a lot of parents and families being in a huge hurry to get their pass in, and they aren't thinking ahead to babysitter, or a mom starts, she thought she was gonna start working in the fall when her kids went back to school and she just got a job and she had to get a babysitter. I mean, I've seen a lot of different situations. I guess if it becomes a real problem, we could revoke it, but I don't have a problem if it's only been,
How do you revoke it once the pass has been
well,
issued?
next year. I mean, next year we just wouldn't allow it. We could try it for a year, I mean, not make it too obvious, but.
Those calls that I get that say, I did it last year, why can't I do it this year?
Well, then you'll say that there were a lot of, like we always do, you'll say there was a lot of abuse of it, and we had to stop doing it. We do that all the time. I mean, why were our rates
Well,
increased?
that's where this rule came from.
Like
was
if
that,
someone
was that there was abuse of the system.
Are we able to state somewhere legally that if someone falsifies information, that would revoke their ability for membership in the future?
It says it in there, actually. I think it does say that in the past already. It says it in the application.
I don't think it actually says that it would be revoked.
I think
It
it
says, I
does.
certify that the above information is true and correct.
But does it say any type of penalty?
Doesn't.
That's
No.
I thought I'd seen somewhere that it said it could be revoked, but
Well, you do have a rule violation or misconduct provision. I don't know that I have the actual full pass rules.
I thought
But you
it
do
said
have
false
procedures, they
accusation.
violate the rules.
I don't have this.
Temporary permanent suspension of privileges and permanent by the trustees.
That's in the park rules.
That's in the
Beth, you
pool
have the
rules.
The
rules.
pool
but not in
rules,
the
the
contract.
pool rules, I don't think,
Beth, is that the season pass application?
uh-huh.
Can't see
But
it.
I don't, Mike, I don't think that the pool rules specifically state anything about the application itself.
No, it just says if you violate the rules.
Right.
False information provided on application will result in season pass being revoked. Page 2. Do you want this back? So that does kind of cover us. That was a good idea. Thank you.
So with that, that would enable us that if they do violate it, they can revoke that for next year, penalty. So if it is deemed that they're using or abusing it for various reasons, that you can technically revoke it.
Yeah, I think that's kind of scary language to have in there. I mean, I guess we could move it up right in a really a prevalent place that maybe people would, it would be a little more intimidating.
But my question would be, how do you prove that it's being abused? Because outside of, you know, the question that we don't say, this is not your dependent. We say, please confirm this is your dependent. And so, you know, I don't know how the township could legally challenge and or confront the resident to say that this is not.
Right, I mean, that's a good point, but my point is that it's more of a putting a, trying to prevent it, including that language, and hoping that the person will, well, you'd think that people would just do the right thing naturally.
Well,
but maybe,
you'd think that they would.
I
but-
know you would, but I mean, most, you know.
And our thought was that by requiring that they do the babysitter up front, remember, right now it's $10. So if you think you're going to have a babysitter, add your babysitter.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's no penalty for having that babysitter. If you use it twice, it's already paid. It's more than paid
How
for
about making it $20?
the piece.
Making it more if you buy it, if you, I mean, of course, you'd have to pass a resolution, but having a penalty, allowing it, but maybe having a small penalty, I don't know, 20, but maybe, you know, making it 15, or I don't know. If that's allowed, that might prevent it. But I think that language in there, even though we might not be able to enforce it, I mean, there's a lot of things on the pool, on the park rules that we could enforce that people do all the time at the park, but we don't see. So it's
Well,
put
just
there to
because we
prevent
don't see
things.
it doesn't mean if we do see it, we can't enforce it.
Right.
I believe the comment's been made at the township several times, if you can't enforce it, why have the rule?
Yeah, it becomes somewhat difficult if you have a rule you can't enforce. At best, you're in a very uncomfortable situation. I would say government, especially if they're exercising a police power, that it should be gravel.
But in theory, you could enforce that if the criteria is on the application and someone tried to put 10 people on there, you question them, and they said, no, these are all family members, and it went to court, and it turned out they were not people living at the same address, then you'd be able to
If
pursue
you could
that.
establish that as a fact,
Right.
it's like any other
Right. I
enforcement.
think
Either
we're
you can make
covered.
your case or you can't.
Exactly.
Sometimes you can look at a situation and know you're just practically not going to make the case. And doing things for an interim effect alone is probably not the best advice, because some people will call you on it, and that can get.
Or we should just
awkward
take
very
it
quickly.
out completely then, don't even put that people have to be members of the household if we can't enforce it. Just take that all out and let everybody have 10 random people in the past. If one's not enforceable, the other one's not enforceable. I think it's enough of a,
Well, enforceable at what cost? You know, I mean, would the township trustees really take a resident that falsified an application for
right.
even 5 people at $175? Would you even contact Mr. McCarthy to write an opinion that would be
Right.
more than that dollar amount to begin with. So,
Right.
I mean, there's
But it's unlikely
The-
that any of that is going to happen. I think that putting that rule in, it is enforceable if we need to. I believe it is legally enforceable if we need to enforce it, and I think it's a preventative measure. And I would go for allowing the babysitter passes afterwards, maybe with a small penalty, and see how it goes this year. And, I mean, not advertise it. I wouldn't want to be putting a poster on the front of the pool stating that, but I think it's I think we're here to, residents are going to make mistakes, we all make mistakes, and I don't want to penalize somebody for overlooking something.
So without publicizing it though, so you just have to be prudent enough to call the township. I mean,
Exactly.
I
We have
personally
policies
think
that are
that,
not advertised. In fact, I recall a few years ago, we allowed friends to come in with season pass holders and paid $5, but the minutes indicate that was not advertised, but people were allowed to do it when they called. So I don't see the difference between that and this.
but the season pass holder that brings their guests, they know that. What we don't want to advertise is to the public to be standing out in the parking lot,
Right.
looking for a season pass holder, saying, hey, take me in for $6.
Well, that was informal policy also.
So that was the non-advertising there. But if we're going to make a policy and say that we're not going to advertise it, and so therefore the people that have already contacted me that have been told no, but I have no contact information for, are
They can call.
unfairly not getting a babysitter, or
What about the people last year that contacted you and were able to get a babysitter
but
pass? I
it
mean,
was
it's gotta-
across the board. Nobody got a
Right,
babysitter at it.
Right, but it's got to start somewhere, and we're being asked now, and I would support that. I mean,
Yeah, I just,
You gotta start
in my opinion, the way it's worded now is for the people that are honest and forthright to be able to get a babysitter at the beginning, and the people that are trying to find the loopholes do not get in the back door.
or people that are forgetful and forget to put the babysitter on there from the first place. There's probably as many people trying to get away with breaking the rules when they first submit the application as after. In fact, they might even be more organized if they're submitting it weeks early. I mean, I would think that a forgetful person would be the kind to, someone that forgets. I don't see how you can judge either group separately, really.
That's just been kind of my experience as we've been doing these in Township Hall.
Well, I mean,
And that's not to say anything about the two applicants that we have in front of us tonight. I do think that one of them is absolutely forgetful. The other one, I really don't know, because it's more than a babysitter that they're adding. I mean, I just go from experience of my household,
Right, but you
how I grew
also-
up, and my
right.
friends. If you're looking at a season pass application for swimming, you look at everybody in your household who wants to be on it. When you send it in, everybody's included.
but your criteria, even for sending a letter questioning something on the application, is very subjective. I asked you for the rules for that, and that's very subjective. So, I mean, you can't have.
It's not subjective.
It's a gut reaction.
It's not a gut reaction. They're very clear. And
Your letters are very clear. The criteria that you're questioning residents' applications is very clear.
we're asking them to confirm either if someone is a dependent,
But your
or
criteria
any
for
other
sending,
question
when
that we have.
the application being flagged, I asked you earlier, how is the application flagged? And you said
There's
it's
something
just-
unusual about the application.
But for all you know, it could be discrimination. If someone has had 3 foster children and you look and you see there were 2
When-
kids this year.
and that's why we don't
when you
challenge
see-
them,
when you
saying
see-
that they're not their
I
dependent.
just listened to you, and I did not interrupt you. You could have 2 children and then have 3 foster kids, and then you send the letter out. But what's the difference between that and a brand new pass holder who fraudulently put 6 kids on there? I mean, you're not gonna be able to catch everybody, and I think.
No, if it's turned in and everybody has the same last name and the age difference is, looks appropriate and it looks like a family, there's no questions
Well,
asked.
I don't know what a family looks
If-
like, really.
Well, sometimes, we get applications with 6 different last names on it.
That's.
And
yeah.
sometimes
You
that's
send
kind of
a letter to those
unusual.
people?
If they've had a pass last year and there were only 2 last names on it or 3 last names on it, yes, we'll send it back
So
and ask them
once
to
again,
confirm.
I find that very subjective. I mean, the board is asked to be making a decision now. It's our decision to make. I've said how I feel, and you two can go ahead and finish up the decision.
What would your recommendation be as a liaison?
My initial recommendation was to increase the price next year. And that would sway people from putting friends on at the $10 price.
I like that idea.
And even $20 is cheap to add a babysitter
Right.
on. For the rest of the season, I think it should be a case by case. I can't do that unless.
I mean, and then how, my question is, I think that's a good idea, but how would you,
I like
one
the-
family comes in and the other one, I think we don't have probably peer to judge each.
Well, I like the idea of the 16 and older, because obviously they have to be able to drive. My daughter's 13, and obviously she can't drive the kids to the pool.
Well, you have to be 16 to bring a child younger than the end of the pool. That was where that
Okay.
came from.
What would be the appropriate rate for next year to raise it to?
Well, I mean, and I like that, I would say no more than $20 in my opinion, because I don't want to penalize people that have babysitters. I mean, they're already paying daycare and all that. I don't think it should be too high, but also that is a good idea to raise it.
I think whatever you raise it to next year, you go ahead and implement that to anybody that has not met the deadline for this year.
Yeah, I like that. It's a good idea. I'd say 20, maybe 20.
Then
Wait,
if
we've
we're
already
gonna
missed
do that, I
3 weeks
would like
before that.
to advertise that. I mean, I would like to make it as fair as possible if we're gonna open up the policy.
No, that's completely understandable, because you've had people that contact you, and you've already turned them away, and it wouldn't be fair to those people
Correct.
to not know about it, which I understand that completely.
But that's going to bring in, I would think, an influx of fraud then. If you're going to go ahead and advertise, you're going to have 50 people applying. I don't see why we would need to actually advertise that if, I mean, we're making this decision effective today. It was not effective 2 weeks ago. I mean, it's a new thing. I mean, I wish we would have caught it earlier, but we didn't. And I think if we advertise, it's a really bad idea. We don't advertise all of our rules. We don't send them out. I would say I say this year, $20. In fact, how much of the season's already gone? 3 weeks of the season's already over, actually. So I would say just add it to the pass next year, and then people can take a look then. That's my suggestion. If you guys
And
have
then,
different
wasn't your
opinions.
suggestion to put age 16 on the back of the pass where it talks about the babysitter?
Hmm?
On the,
Yeah.
and I like that, adding that age.
I'm not sure it's right for us not to advertise something that's a service for the township in that respect. If we're going to go ahead and do something that residents can benefit from or utilize.
At the time they signed their pass, though, it said they weren't allowed.
I
and they were
understand
not
that.
allowed at that time.
But there's people that called in, and as you pointed out earlier, some people forgot, or some people might have had a last-minute babysitter that was able to do it for them, and these people are now not going to be able to get notified because we're not going to publicize it. I think that's a concern.
Because they called 2 weeks ago
Right.
instead of 1 week ago.
Well, there were so many requests that we decided to change the policy, but I don't know how we can look back and, I mean, at least the rest of the residents will get the benefit for the rest of the season. And if those people somehow hear about it, then they'll be able to take advantage of it. I just think it's a bad, I mean, if she's concerned that all these people are asking or are trying to get a loophole, I think advertising it will definitely expand that number of people.
Well, the reality is the loophole is already exposed, and next year anybody that's unfamiliar with this is going to sign up ahead of time and take advantage of it prior to the deadline if they wanted to.
So we don't need to advertise it. Okay.
The point here is, as you pointed out, that you've had people that last minute or had changes in their schedules, and we've already turned them away, and we're making a change because we've had these requests. I don't think it's right to those residents that have come to us that we don't somehow in a way be able to notify them. It's not fair to them. I mean, they're taxpayers too. So obviously we don't have all their contact information. The only way for us to do that would be to put this out there so everybody knows.
How many season pass holders do we have right now?
My guess is about 1,300.
So we're going to let 1,300 people know, at least, not to mention all the non-residents go to the pool every day. How many people do we have non-resident passes a day?
We don't have passes for non-residents.
Or, I'm sorry, daily season pass, or daily pass, $12?
I don't know off the top of my head.
You know how many?
It ranges. The weekend's much higher than
About how
during the week.
many people
I'd
come a
have to
day?
double check the
You
spreadsheet.
don't know at all?
Off the top of my head, I do not know.
Well, I have no idea, but I thought it was maybe 50 or 60 at least. So if we put something up there on the bulletin board that says that, then we have all those people coming in. I think that, I recommend against that. Even though I do understand your point, but if we've had a few people call, it's been 3 weeks since the pool's open. You said about 12 people within how many weeks?
I'd say in the last 2 weeks, I probably
So
had
then there's
12
1 week
calls.
worth of inquiries, and that could have been a few. I mean, you're gonna leave out 4 or 5 people possibly, or you're gonna open it up to thousands of people.
Or the other option is just go ahead and not make the change until next year and stick with the rules for this year.
Right, yep.
Well, I'm okay with that, and a situation where, like these 2 that you have here, it can go, we can do it case by case for the rest of the season.
But can we do, I mean, can we do like a case-by-case basis?
Well, preferably you would do it with some announced criteria. I think that was discussed earlier.
Right.
Rather than ad hoc.
Because that would be risky. You could be discriminating against a family with different last names. I mean, there's lots of that.
Well, I don't think we've ever gotten into it. Have we ever gotten to a situation where we've required copies of birth certificates or anything like that?
No.
So, I mean,
Just-
realistically,
yeah.
you eyeball a kid, tell me how old they are. You know, the older they get, the tougher that gets. So we would keep board.
Well, obviously, they would still need to be 16. I just don't see any harm in just giving it a try this year, allowing people to ask. It seems like a simple solution, allowing anyone to ask, and who's 16 and over, to just go ahead and be added for $20. Or, I mean, or we can wait till next year if that's what the rest of the board likes. But
Do we have a rate that we're looking at? Is it going to be $20? Is it going to be $25?
I think that
I
should
think
be waiting for
20.
us to decide that.
To the trustees.
yeah, I would say $20. I mean, you don't want to penalize someone too much, but
I think $20 is good.
So it sounds like to me $20 is an acceptable fee, especially for next year to raise it to. For the current situation, I'm not sure. I like the idea of the case by case, but the criteria might still be challenging with that. Again, my concern is if we're going to do it, we need to notify the public, just in all fairness.
how would you
If we're
notify
not going
them?
to do it, then we'll just, wait till next year.
How would you notify them? Thinking?
Well, just at least some type of attempt of, like we do with anything else, a listserv. But, I understand the statement of concern. I don't think there's going to be 1,300 people jumping on there to do that, because I don't think everybody's out there trying to abuse or find loopholes in the system.
No, it's just a
So I don't think it's going to be to that extent. So, like I said, those are just my 2 concerns. I'll work with the board on what direction they want to go. I like the idea of raising it next year to help deter some of the abuse. But I just do, from a case by case, I'm worried about criteria, and if we do it, just go across the board. I'm concerned about not notifying those people that have already requested it and be turned away.
Well, those people might not even be on the listserv. How do we know that people who are turned away are even on the listserv?
But it's an attempt, as a public official, attempted to reach out to the residents.
How many people get the listserv now, Gail?
700 and some.
That's
Was the
really-
last count I had.
Out of 25,000.
It's doubled.
Yeah, it's actually doubled, so.
Right, but still, something then.
But it's an attempt as a public official to reach out to the public.
Well, and I guess I would put something at the poll to contact me. And then based upon their, hey, I talked to you a month ago, what's the deal with the babysitter?
And maybe that's the way to do it, saying that,
Right.
Maybe it's
And,
just
and
something.
at least we can give them some background that it was brought to the trustees on this date, and that, I would personally appreciate not kind of giving one to now, and when other people have talked to me that I don't remember who they are, can't contact them, it kind of to be honest, it just kind of takes me off the hook from, you know, telling someone no and now telling someone yes.
Well, the rules would not be changing until effective today, so you did nothing wrong by telling them it wasn't in place. I mean, rules change all the time. Maybe we could put a little card on the bulletin board saying for babysitter passes for this year, contact her number. And that way it wouldn't be saying that it's $20, it wouldn't be saying the criteria, and hopefully only legitimate inquiries would be received. Would that help, Rob?
You know, I think it's something to be able to help them out. That's probably
When
the most
it's
visible
something
spot.
for someone at the pool.
Right.
And that's, you know, the criteria that the babysitter is the guardian for that day, that it's not somebody that comes with the parents, that they take the child, it is a benefit for working parents or to give parents a break. But it's not someone that comes with mom to help watch the kids or to kind of be there to hang out with. It is a babysitter, it's a function.
That's what it says in the past, right?
Correct.
That they can't come without the child.
Right.
Yes,
Now,
that's
she can bring in the babysitter as well with the mother
Yeah.
for $6, whether they have a pass or not, but,
Are you comfortable with that? Are we good?
yeah. So we're gonna do $20?
Do we have to make a resolution for that, Mike?
Yeah. If you're changing your rates, that's a resolution.
How would you want to, do you want to help trustees run over that? Yes, you do. I couldn't wing that one.
I'll tell you what, if you want to move on with your work.
Yeah, that's a good
Everybody
idea.
see that.
And Beth, could you forward us a copy of the language that you're going to put up on the bulletin board, please?
I have a purchase order, and then a now purchase order to MP Dory for the traffic signal pavement markings for the High Banks Connector Trail, Owenfield Drive. Is there any questions regarding that? That's all complete now too, I believe.
That is correct. There was a purchase order done for this last fall. The work has recently been submitted. When we got the invoice, they had noticed an error in accounting that purchase order had inadvertently been closed. And so just this is to correct that, and just it has to be amended now since that was closed.
And has this been put up?
It's been constructed.
Is it at Powell
High Banks and
Road?
Owenfield.
By Skyline Tilling.
Powell Road and Owenfield?
Right. And it's there right now?
Push the button
Drive by
across
it
the
every
street.
day and didn't see it.
It was Sunday morning, I think 10 people were standing there waiting to cross.
I've been on the trail,
Oh,
I
yeah?
haven't.
Awesome.
I guess because I live right in that neighborhood, I don't really use that.
And High Banks is still working on the crossing at High Meadows Village Drive.
Right, I'm waiting for that one. Take my life into my hands.
I make the motion to authorize the issuance of a then and now purchase order to MP Dory in the amount of $12,374.70 for traffic signal and pavement markings for High Banks Connector Trail, Owenfield Drive.
Second?
Ms. Taranto?
Yes.
Ms. Net?
Yes.
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
Thank you. I sent out an email late today, but the schedule for road improvement has been updated. If anybody would like to take a look at that, the link on our website has been up. The county has updated their website, so our links to theirs to the correct schedule.
Thank you. I'd like to make a note for the record that Fiscal Officer Mr. Spitzer has arrived. Good evening, Chief.
Good evening, ma'am and sir.
We're on to the public safety report. I'll turn it over to Trustee Knapp.
Okay, we have, to start out, we have some thank you letters that have been received.
Sure. We have a thank you letter from the Columbus Sail and Power Squadron. Would like to thank you for your services last night at the Elm Creek Sailing Association Pavilion. We take boating safety seriously, and fire extinguisher training is extremely important. So that's a thank you to Inspector Educator Dave Smith. The second one is a letter from a person that we treated after a motorcycle accident. He says he was pulling into a service station, was hit by an SUV, He said, as I lay on the pavement looking at the buzzards circling in the warm morning air, I thought, man, I wish I was in Westerville. He is a retired Westerville firefighter and police officer. He said, your crews arrived quickly. He said, I didn't have to worry, but he said, your crews arrived quickly and did everything just as I would have. They were considerate, professional, and fully competent. And so he was very appreciative of the work we did there. And that was 3-unit Lieutenant Myers' crew. And then the third one is a thank you from Pembroke School of Lewis Center. Thank you so much for bringing the 2 fire trucks and firefighters out last week for a visit. The kids loved it. Thank you for your time and the extra junior firefighter hats, and that was 2-unit Lieutenant Rice. The next item is to accept a resolution for Edward Kim to conduct an internal investigation. I believe our liaison, Ms. Knapp, has that information. I'm not sure.
The resolution?
That resolution.
Oh, yeah, here. Do you guys have any questions about that? I make a motion, I move the adoption of the following resolution. Be it resolved that the township retain Edward S. Kim through the law firm of Downs, Fishel, Haas, Kim, LLP, at an hourly rate of $180 as additional counsel to assist the fire chief in the investigation of conduct and preparation and presentation of necessary charges in regard to a firefighter within the Orange Township Fire Department.
Second.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes?
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
Mr. Randall?
Yes.
The next item is, in your packet, there was a letter from Governor Kasich. Assistant Chief Noble was nominated and was appointed to the State Fire Commission. I've also given each of you a copy of the duties of the State Fire Commission. And the first paragraph says to conduct research, make and publish reports on fire safety, recommend to the Governor and the General Assembly, the Board of Building Standards, and other state agencies any needed changes in the laws, rules, or administrative policies related to fire safety. And then briefly, they also interview candidates for the State Fire Marshal and make recommendations to the same people, General Assembly and the Governor. And they also maintain a Hall of Fame, Fire Service Hall of Fame. That's his duties. There are 13 members on that board. He meets 6 times a year, I believe it is. They meet 11 o'clock, and as in the past, none of this time will be taken away from Orange Township. And so I think we're very proud that he got appointed to the thing.
Congratulations. Good job.
And there's only 6 commission members, right?
Pardon me?
There's only 6 commission
There's
members?
6 voting members, 13 total members.
So it's a very, I
Right.
think it's,
And those members, if you would look on the last page, it gives the meeting dates, but also lists the members of the council right there.
congratulations.
The next item is a supplemental request for $50,000. We've almost completed our vehicle repair line item. This money is not new money. It is money that's being moved from our capital improvements, which is vehicle replacement. We are slowly depleting all of our excess monies, but we ask for a supplemental request, and I think you have the resolution for that, Ms. Knapp.
Yes, I don't think we have the schedule for the, do we have the schedule for the meetings?
Yeah, it's in the back of this information you have right here. If you all have
That was added, yeah, that was put on the table later.
Yeah, it was put on the table later. I put it, here's another one.
Oh, it's not, okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
me and Deb didn't get it. I just want to make sure we had it. Do we?
There's an extra
I
copy.
did get this.
All right.
Duties of Fire Commission, okay. It looks like that. Okay, so that's the entire vice code information. Okay.
Yeah, we just have the supplemental request, and then we request for the blanket, and those are both resolutions, I believe.
Do you guys have any questions or comments? No, I do not.
No?
I make a motion to authorize a supplemental appropriation from account 2191-760-750-0000 to account 2191-220-323-1301 in the amount of $50,000 for repairs and maintenance of vehicles.
Second.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes?
Ms. Taranto?
Yes.
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
I make a motion to authorize the issuance of a super blanket certificate to account 2191-220-323-1301 for repairs and maintenance of vehicles.
Second.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes?
Ms. Taranto?
Yes.
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
The next item is May crime statistics.
Okay. I was just going to briefly review the May crime statistics. I've been working with the Sheriff's Office to get some more user-friendly reports in a more prompt manner. Not that they weren't being prompt, but now they're being sent automatically, is what I meant. And I like this new one because we actually have it broken down by the different types of calls and also by repeat calls for service by location. So it actually will note if there's been more than one incident. It will actually note the various, like a certain business or a certain subdivision. It will say the number of crimes that happened. Like it says Walmart Supercenter, for example, 1 drunk, 1 forgery, 1 unruly juvenile, 1 suspicious person, 3 thefts, 1 theft in process, and 1 traffic citation. So it kind of gives us more of an idea of where more of the crime is occurring in the township. And of course, the highest incident is traffic stops at 222. The next one, I believe, is alarm drops, and some suspicious person autos and suspicious vehicles, and civil paper services, and 28 crashes. So total of 956 for May of this year. That's all I have. Thank you.
Just out of curiosity, I mean, these are the same exact reports we used to get monthly last year, and there's also a detailed spreadsheet that comes with it. I know there's some changes up there at the Sheriff's Department, and we weren't getting these for a while, but if possible, if we can get these as well as that spreadsheet with the details, forward them to us once you get them.
Yeah, I get the spreadsheet. We've been getting the spreadsheets the last couple months, but this report is new.
Well, yeah, this is what they had last year.
This report?
Yeah, they've had this last year.
The same one?
Yes. We've
Okay.
got these every.
Cash and Vance told me it was a new one.
No, we've actually got a detailed packet that would say Sheriff's Department on there. This would all be in there, exactly the same stuff, and then a couple other items, and then we get the spreadsheet in a separate.
I think I've been getting the spreadsheet, but with all the changes that were going on up there, I couldn't even contact the original sheriff for 2 months, and then we have the new one, but he's kind of getting up to speed. So what else did you say you would get besides this?
It was actually a formalized document. It actually had like the sheriff logo. I mean, it's the same content as here. And there was maybe one other page or two.
Do you remember what the other ones?
I can pull an old one out.
Let me know, because if we're not getting something that we should be getting, because they were just sending me the call reports, and I was trying to break them all down myself, and that wasn't.
No, that's fine. Yeah, if you could just
difficult.
forward them to us so we can look at them ourselves. Or I don't know about you, but I can
Yeah,
look at them.
Yeah, I'll just have them copy you on an email. Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Then we have a purchase order, item G, to Absolute Impressions for $3,460 for Chevron safety striping on the vehicles. Not all of our vehicles were ordered with this striping. When you're traveling down the road, you see the yellow stripes on the back of the vehicles. That's to protect our firefighters when they're stopped at a scene, that they don't get hit. So we need to put those on there so that we can protect our firefighters.
So is that a new law? Is it a new law?
It's a law that we have to do that, correct. And it has to meet certain criteria as well.
So is it a new law, or did we just miss it when we were ordering?
No, it was not required when we ordered the equipment. There's a new law in place now that we have to put it on the equipment.
I just wanted to explain that,
Sure.
so it didn't look like. Do you guys have any questions on that? I can make a motion to authorize the issuance of a purchase order to Absolute Impressions in the amount of $3,460 for Chevron safety striping.
Second.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes?
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
Ms. Randall?
Yes.
Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. I'm moving on to new business. The first item is one that's been on here a couple times that we haven't gotten to. Dead trees in township right-of-ways. It was briefly discussed at a meeting. I know Ms. Hsu had some, I think you had some more information on that.
Well, I've talked with Mr. McCarthy again. I've talked to the county. There was an article in the paper over the weekend. It still stands. The case law shows that until a tree obstructs the right-of-way, it is not liable, and correct me if I'm not explaining this right, Mr. McCarthy, that the township is not liable until the tree is obstructing the road pathway itself. We went out and did just kind of a quick head count, if you will, to give the trustees an idea of the kind of dollars that we could be getting into. Right now, we count approximately 50 dead ash trees. These are noticeably dead, not dying. And those 50 would probably be in the range of $750 to remove. And there's probably another 10 that are of the size that would be about $1,500 to remove. I spoke with the county. They are removing ash trees. They're removing them from the right-of-way easement and owned right-of-way. There is, and I missed it because we're not removing trees, but in the bid list from the county, we could probably get a little better deal on that. But based upon my initial numbers, we're talking about $52,000 to $53,000 with my initial estimate just this year. We would probably have a very similar number next year. The county right now has budgeted this year for approximately 220 trees to be removed at $150,000.
Are they taking them on complaints only, or are they just going through?
They're going through and they're marking them, and as they get calls, they're telling them that they're just progressing.
So why did they explain why they were doing that, taking the action? The county?
That's what they've chosen to do.
But even though technically they're not liable unless it falls, is that correct?
That's from our township legal research into case law as it stands right now.
And so you said there's 50 that you found, just along township roads?
Correct.
Wait, then you said there's 10 more that would be $1,500?
There are 50 that are of a size that we could probably remove for what our estimate was around $750. And then there are 10 that are significantly larger that because of how they're either entwined in the wires or because of just their massive size would be closer to $1,500. So we calculated 50 at $750 and 10 at $1,500. And it was $52,500 was a rough estimate. I do think that if we used the contract bid price that the county is using, since these 50, we've not measured the caliper of the tree and their bid prices are based upon tree caliper, we may or may not, depending upon the sizes of the tree. The smaller size tree, 18 to 24 inches, is less than $750. 24 inches and above is more than $750, and it goes up into $1,500, I think, to $2,000 in the bid pricing.
Did you get a copy of that, of the bid pricing?
Yeah, I have the bid pricing.
The reason I was bringing this up is because we have a resident that lives across the street named Daryl, which is spelled D-A-R-H-L, and his last name is Schoenweb. And he was concerned because of the large ash trees and they are very large, that are actually, I guess some of them are in the right of way, possibly. it might be, there are also some in his yard, but he was concerned about, it says there are 7 dead ash trees in his front yard. And let me see, it says, they're going to pose a dangerous situation to traffic on Orange Road and the telephone and possibly power lines in the near future. Any help you might be able to provide would be greatly appreciated, as I'm retired and on a fixed income. So that would be my concern. I mean, you could say the township isn't liable legally if there's damages, even though that could still involve a lengthy court. You could have costs from some type of lawsuit.
Liability would happen when the tree hits the
Right.
pavement, if it remains there to the extent that the township has either actual or constructive notice of its existence, then liability attaches. But
Right.
the legislature changed the law, and it's way different from what it used to be.
Right. Exactly. I think it's kind of risky. Plus, like, I thought that was a good point, that it could knock down these various utility lines, and they are quite large. And I haven't actually, I was there, but I would say they're probably 12 to 15 feet from the road, and I guess the road, including, it's our 60-foot right-of-way. So I think they are within the right-of-way, but you guys can take a look. Well, they're just right across from the hall, you might have seen them, but you can take a look at those if you want. I think they're a hazard. Now, I'd be worried that even if we are liable until the trees fall down, that road is a very heavily traveled road, and I'm pretty sure if they fell, then there'd be a high risk of hurting somebody. And I do think also about the point that there are 50 of them. The ash tree borer has been a big issue just recently, and it was one that none of us could anticipate, and that's resulted in the mass destruction of ash trees. And I think it's our duty as a township to try to take these trees down before they kill somebody. Especially on Orange Road, which is a very busy road, any busy road. Where were the other trees at? Did you make a note of what roads?
We drove all the township trees. We drove all the township roads. It would include West Orange, Big Walnut, Shanahan, Bale Canyon, any of the other township roads.
Because these are probably 20, a foot and a half to 2 feet across, and probably 70 feet tall.
One point that I'd also just, in your thought process and in discussion of this, I personally don't have a preference. I'm not budgeted to remove any of these trees. So just FYI. And currently the liability has been discussed, but there's also an issue. I don't believe it's the case across the street, but in a number of these other trees, a lot of the older lots still own to the center line of the road. So is it a township tree because it's right-of-way, easement over top of that property, or is it private property and it's that private property owner's tree? And if we're going to remove the ones across the street, it then goes where, are we going to only remove if you call and ask us to remove the trees, or are we going to start a removal process? And I think we need to identify the criteria for it.
The county, you said the county has started doing it, and they aren't legally required to do it, but there must be, I'd like to find out the reason they decided to.
They're doing county roads, not township roads.
We're doing county
Yeah,
roads,
right.
that's correct.
But I'm just saying the thought process is the
That's
same.
what the commissioners decided to do.
Right, so they
don't
were
know the
probably
thought process.
advised of the legality of it, and they chose to go ahead and have the trees taken down anyway. So I'm wondering why they decided, what their reason behind it was.
They are also grinding the stump, which I found very interesting because that's a significant increase in cost
Yeah,
that they're doing that.
I don't think that would be necessary.
One thing, if you are going to be going on someone's lot to do this, I would suggest we look at using that license form that was arrived at in regard to the park tree.
I'll agree with that.
So you're saying that so if they're in the right of way, but yet it's owned by,
In the area where the individual owns to the center of the roadway, I would suggest you do that so that there is no question as to your ability to have their permission to be there. Also, their clear understanding that it may not eradicate all possible evidence of that tree's existence, which I think were about the two biggest things that form did, if I recall.
And then I'd also just like to look at it from a perspective that if we're going to remove those within the right-of-way, then do we need to re-examine the trees that are in the park areas that we've looked at as inactive areas that we're not actively removing like we are over at Row.
I know, I think your initial discussion on that, of living them naturally, was probably an ideal situation at the time because of the costs.
Well, from a cost standpoint, yes. From an aesthetic standpoint, and, you know, eventually they will fall. They're dead trees.
Right. There's an extensive amount of ash trees within the parks and non-active zones and non-active areas that some were cleaned up. The idea was to let them go ahead and just naturally fall or whatever because they weren't in an area that was active. So, but if you're looking at this, you know, obviously something like this, you're estimating that we have to come up possibly for the next couple of years an average of $50,000.
I would guess for at least the next 2 years, potentially the next 3 years. Because there are still ash trees out there that have not died that would not be removed just yet.
Right. We could do it on a request basis, I guess. If somebody requests it, if somebody was worried enough to call the township about it.
Well, I think generally you'd probably get a better discount or better pricing if you did it more on volume.
There's a mobilization charge, so the more we're doing with the mobilization would make sense.
Well, I'm just saying, if someone wants 7 trees here and then we have 50 more.
I wonder if we can't piggyback on with Delaware County.
We can. We can use their bid. We can use their bid pricing.
Now, this person, I don't know if this is right, but he says he talked to Timberland Tree Cutting in Delaware. And they gave him an estimate of $750 to fell all 7 trees in the yard and grind the 7 stumps.
I say he takes it.
I was thinking he was saying $750 a piece.
Yeah, it cost me $250 to do a tree in my yard and another $100 to do the stumps. So.
Yeah, my neighbor across the street just did one and it was $750 just for one.
Well, well, we can still call this and find. It could be too that he has a yard that doesn't have a lot of, you know, a lot of. This just involves felling them. He might not have anything in the front yard that would prevent them from just being felled. If it's really close to your house, it could be really expensive because they have to climb it and take the top off and all that.
And then what do we do with that wood? We have had issues in the past where it's not unusual that if it's a live tree, it belongs to the resident. If it's dead, it belongs to the township.
Why wouldn't the tree person haul it away?
Well, that's an extra cost. Where are they going to take it to? So, I mean, that's added cost to haul that away. And it's not unusual. We've had instances where we've removed trees and taken the wood, and the resident has come back and said, I wanted that wood, but they didn't want to remove the tree. So, you know, at what point, you know,
you just need to make sure all that's clear before you cut the tree.
Right, I would just ask the resident, I think a lot of them would want the wood. I mean, we had a gigantic ash tree taken down last year for over $1,000, and it, we kept the wood, and I mean, the ash borers everywhere. I would think some people want to keep the wood. You could just check before you.
Well, it also depends on the contractor. Sometimes they want to take it away or whatever. So
they may take it as firewood. Yeah.
Yeah, only certain trees. Well, ash trees are not good trees to sell. I think for oak trees, there's certain trees that you can sell again for firewood. The ash tree, I don't think is one.
I would assume this would apply to not just ash trees in the right of way. These are dead trees in the right of way.
Oh, right. But
I
now we have ash.
Have another call that I've just recently received in the last week for a dead oak on West Orange.
I just think that, I mean, and years ago when our roads weren't traveled very well, a tree could fall and not hurt anybody. We have with 25,000 residents, and how many people travel? I think 4,000 people travel Lewis Center Road, just for example, every day between 23 and South Old State. So I would think it would maybe even be more for Orange, and I just think that's a big risk. And if a resident calls and complains, I mean, that's when I would take the action. And also if you notice one that was particularly dangerous. Because I would think if I lived near a dead tree, if I thought it was a concern, I would call the township, but I don't know.
Since you're not budgeted for it though, we would have to pull that. Another area.
So you said
No,
there's
there's a lot to pull.
60.
I know.
And we don't have to decide tonight either. If you guys want to bring it up next, if Rob, if you want to do some research and we can just talk about it next time.
Well, if you can give us some more information from the county contracts.
Yeah.
And then,
Why they're doing it, what spurred that on?
Yeah, I would like to, yeah, to find out the rationale behind that.
and also discuss where possibly we're pulling
With,
those funds from.
yeah, the information that I got from the county is that they're doing it basically based upon resident complaints. That they started doing it, that's what the commissioners wanted to do. They went out to bid for it and they're just progressing.
Right.
They're marking the trees and moving forward. I mean, they're going to the extent of grinding the stumps. So basically, if it's in someone's front yard, they're grinding that stump.
I don't know if it'd be necessary to grind the stump.
I'm not so sure about that either.
Because that's not danger. I mean, to me, a stump it's unsightly, but it's not really a danger. But, so they actually are doing it on a call-by-call basis?
No, the county is deciding what they're doing and how they're doing it and how they're progressing.
It's a plan, it's a formulated plan for them, and they're doing it for more than 1 year too, or is it just basically?
They'll be doing something similar next year.
So they are doing it on a complaint basis, or they're just?
No, they're doing it,
They went and surveyed all the roads? And how many?
I don't know what roads they're doing initially, if they're doing it by how big the tree, I don't know what their criteria is and how they're doing it. It was just explained to me that they identify them, and I'm sure that it's in a logical, probably a geographical area that they're doing, because that's the most cost-effective way to have them mobilize and remove trees in one area.
All right, can we get that information and then revisit this?
Sure.
Yeah.
Is there a budget number that we want to start to look at? Because I can start to look at where we could do some supplementals if possible, where
Well, I
we
would
would be
say-
taking money from.
I would say with that information, come up with a plan for the next couple of years, and that way we can not only look at this year, but budget for next year, and get a better feel of what's going on. So more or less a multi-year plan, and how many trees to take out.
Do you want to table it for next?
Yes, we'll have the next meeting, that information. You want to read this?
Sure.
Boards.
I move the adoption of the following resolution.
This is taking a step back to the discussion earlier about the boards.
Be it resolved that the Board of Township Trustees of Orange Township, Delaware County, Ohio hereby modifies the swimming pool admission rates to be charged at the North Orange Aquatic Center to provide that a babysitter may be added to a season pass after the submission of a season pass application has occurred upon payment of a fee in the amount of $20 effective immediately.
Second?
Ms. Taranto?
Yes.
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Okay, moving on to item 7D, discussion of setting threshold for posting quotes. A couple meetings ago, we had a discussion about notifying local businesses for items that not necessarily meet the threshold for requirements for bids, to give opportunity to local businesses. We did modify the website, as I explained a couple meetings ago, to be identical to what is currently going on at the county level, so that bids can just be placed on there. We are still looking into the listserv because we've recently, well, probably about a week ago, found out about the capacity of the current listserv, that we might have to switch listservs, so we're looking into that currently right now. But the one thing that was also discussed in the previous meeting was what type of threshold are we looking at, and is this something still that the board would like to pursue overall? I think since that last meeting, there was some concern still about setting thresholds and putting items out there that could delay getting things done quicker. I know that was expressed to me that there's some concern about, for instance, we've had some vandalism out here, that if we set a threshold to go and
blacktop the basketball court out there. We wouldn't be able to get to it right away because we've got to wait until the bid comes in and make sure that they're an approved vendor. So it would actually delay us covering up some of the not so polite graffiti. So there are some concerns about that, of it actually delaying the process. Another idea that came up recently was the possibility of maybe going ahead and doing an open, like come up with select items that we generally do quite often, and just going out there and posting it out there saying that if you're interested in these services, please let us know so that we can contact you when it does come up quicker, and maybe get them into the vendor a queue already so it doesn't slow the process down. So there's a couple things out there. I know this is one of the items that was left undiscussed. I think that meeting was asked to come back and give some ideas of threshold, so I'll open up to the board their ideas of what they would like to do with that.
Well, the reason that I had initially suggested this idea a few meetings ago was because I've noticed through the years that we, as a township, we use a lot of different businesses from other places, like Mount Vernon, Dublin, for computer services and things. And I think that if we're so concerned about business and economic development and supporting our residents and local businesses, that we should try to use Orange Township businesses as much as possible. So I mean.
No, and that's a valid point. In fact, our computer services was with Sarcom first a while back, which was a Lewis Center business. Unfortunately, they didn't have the lowest bid. At those situations, we do have to make sure that we are most effective with the taxpayers' money and not just be paying into a Lewis Center business, but also making sure that we're not we're getting the best deal. So, to your point, that is very valid, and that's the reason why one of the questions was maybe we should come up with just a list of services, like printing services, other services, and sort of just try to get initial acknowledgement out there, maybe some businesses within Lewis Center, so that we know who they are, and that we can get it, when something does come up, we get them through the system and maybe get quicker notice, but not necessarily every single thing that comes up that we put out there for a request for bid. But maybe just some ideal things like blacktopping or sealing or newsletter printing.
Newsletter right now. A company.
Richardson Printing does right now. They have for probably at least 8 or 10 years.
I would think if you send out something on the listserv or contact local printers or the business association. I mean, they have a lot of active people. I think there would be some applicants that could provide the same service, hopefully at the same price or possibly better price. But I think when you have people in the community who are working together like that, also you're going to get a better quality product.
And there's a possibility, but also at the same time, we just want to make note that we're not just picking a person because they're in Lewis Center, because we want to make sure we're getting the best cost competitively for that. So I want to make sure that we're clear on that. Miss Hugh, I know you've had some concerns also, or some thoughts on that as well, some ideas.
I want to make sure that we keep it competitive. I mean, right now we try to use local companies for convenience and save on shipping costs, if nothing else. Recently, we've started to use John Deere Landscapes instead of driving all the way up to Delaware. It saves time and gas money. Even if they're $1 or so more a bag of fertilizer, we can get it immediately. They're local. We're not spending the time and the money, and so in the end, it ends up being cheaper.
Right.
We've done the same thing with uniforms. We've been looking locally for uniforms. We've been using
our lawn care.
Lawn care, and that was a bid situation. They were low bid, but they're local.
So I guess we just need to come up with the best way to
purchase
do this.
Now, things are subject to the bid threshold of $50,000, so obviously we could still send them out, but we would obviously have to pick the best bid.
Well, that's,
the only concern that I would have, I mean, we're open, and I've actually gotten calls from local companies saying, hey, we're looking to do business, what do you think? And we definitely look at them. They send in information. I've met met with a few in the last couple of years that I've been here. What I don't want to do is to make it look like like you mentioned, that we're spending more money to keep it local when we're in charge of taxpayer dollars. So we're really looking for the best deal.
Right.
Sometimes the best deal is local, sometimes it's not.
And to your point, in our discussion, you mentioned that you do already get a lot of businesses, which makes sense, because if you're running a business, you're going to be proactive in going out and asking, like we get calls. So a lot of businesses do contact the township already asking for business or looking for something to do. So I do know that that does happen. But from a standpoint of allowing people to know what's going on, I think it would be a good idea maybe just come up with a list of items that we generally use quite often. And then,
Put it on the same page as the RFQs and RFPs.
right, and then which are modified to those bid proposals. And just come up with a list and saying if you have any of these services you want to provide to the township, let us know and we can talk.
Right.
And then try to find a way, again, back to the listserv, as mentioned earlier, we do have a problem with the listserv right now, that even adding anything else to it. So until we get that resolved, which is probably going to be looking at another provider for that. Once that happens, then we'll be able to go ahead and maybe look at the idea of setting up other listservs or other forums to collect business-only data to help with that process. So I guess a good question would be to ask the department heads to come up with some items that they would think that would be something that would be put out there to try to solicit local businesses, which being on the website won't be just local businesses, it'll be probably other businesses as well, because they'll look as well. But as a step towards being a little more proactive. What I could also do is speak with the Economic Development Board and see maybe if there's something there that we can do to work together to, as they're talking with local businesses, bring up that discussion point. So,
Do we have to have a definitive list now, or, because I've heard the same request for several years that we use more local businesses. I just, I don't know, I don't know if we can work on a list, but sometimes we might see something that we want to place on there.
no, I think it's a working document. That if there's something that we see that we could possibly add, that's fine. Because for mulch and stuff, you use Mr. Mulch, I believe, or something.
Ohio Mulch.
Ohio Mulch. I mean, there's quite a few businesses.
Well, and actually, this year we bought from Ohio Mulch, which is just up on 23.
Right.
The year before, we bought from Greenscapes, which is right next to them. So we asked both of them to give us prices this year. Ohio Mulch was lower this year. On a lot of things that we do, unless we're looking for a specific service that we're looking for to be a reliable time, and then there's either a time crunch or past experience that we're really looking for, we usually go out and get more than one number, or it's an educated quote. So.
And I know, even the chiefs do that. You guys go out, and even though it's below the bid threshold, you still look for the best price. And I know everybody does it. Mr. Ray does a great job with that, trying to find the best price, whether it's in the township or not.
He has a black belt.
Yeah, he does. I know he does. And he's done a great job for the township of saving us money. So I know a lot of departments are very proactive in that already. So.
And you said we have to get a new listserv provider?
There's a possibility of that. The current provider that we're with right now, we have some options where we can still utilize the same web services, but plug in a different listserv, just because the capacity right now, since we keep adding more and more people to it, is beyond their normal load, and they're concerned about it overwhelming their listserv system that they have in place.
Who do we use now?
It's through InfoLink.
Oh. And what's their capacity?
Well, they're generally, from a listserv standpoint, they're probably more in the small to mid area, and they're not, as ours keeps growing, it's becoming, we're finding more and more issues with getting things out, so we want to get out. We've looked at Icon 10, a couple other ones, but then it might even be a possibility of, changing some things a little more drastic, but that's what we're looking into right now.
How much do we pay for that service a year?
Right now, we're not paying anything. That was part of the reason why that we were sticking with them, but we also have to take into account the fact that we
listserv's growing, which is good.
There's 700 people on it, you say?
I think the last time I talked to Nancy, I thought it was more closer to like 750.
I think it's continuing.
Yeah.
That kind of distresses me, considering that we have about 6,000 households. I was thinking the number was going to be a lot higher. I don't know how to promote that any better, but.
I think we've done it through newsletter.
I think it's doubled just by doing swim lessons online.
Yeah. Which.
Yeah, it's literally doubled since we announced that it would go out on the listserv, and that would be, I think at the beginning of the year, we were getting ready to have some 400, yeah.
So would we could put out a request for the listserv, on the listserv, for bids?
We could. That's not an issue. I don't know if there's anybody locally that actually does listservs, but.
I mean, we might want to try that, because I bet there are some companies around, or even in adjacent township. Oh, I just support them also.
And actually, that's what I pointed out too, is that Liberty uses, can't remember the name of it, newsletter listserv that they use. It's not iConnect. I think it is iConnect. So I actually referenced them as possibly getting some pricing from them as well. So we're still looking at from the listserv, but if department heads, back to the item here, department heads come up with some ideas of things that they want to put on there, and we'll go from there. Any questions?
So are we going to advertise for the computer services on the listserv then?
We can.
All right, I'd like to do that, please. And so the next step would be, you said just put together a general list, or would just?
Working with the department heads, coming up with items out there that are probably more common or frequent that we could try to solicit from the local businesses if needed.
So, and you said there's been things like vandalism, then those kind of situations would need to be taken care of?
Those things need to be taken care of a lot more immediate. I don't think leaving language and things out there on the blacktop for 2 weeks to wait for the best bid to come in is not ideal for the public to see. So some things I think we need to be a little more immediate on fixing, but.
We are looking at alternatives. We're getting a number tomorrow,
Okay.
and we'll look at what it costs to do it in-house.
Right.
And it can be done the cheapest way, in the quickest way.
Right.
Was there some vandalism at the township hall overnight?
Yes.
Quite a bit.
Over the weekend.
Okay, because no one, I just found out about that, and no one.
Actually, I just found out coming in today, talking with Miss Hugh, so, because it just happened over the weekend.
Yeah.
Right, I mean, I'd like if you would
I
notify
hadn't
all.
had a chance to send an email out. We spent the day with the sheriff's office.
Right, it is hard to know, if something like that happens, it's a kind of a safety issue. I'd like to be notified in email, please.
Moving on to the fiscal officer report. Mr. Spitzer, did you want to provide an update?
Just the items that are before you, and I think it might be best to go down through the list instead of me discussing them en masse right now.
Okay.
And if you'd like, Mr. Chairman. Oh, excuse me. First, I would like to request that item 8I be tabled. We haven't received the proper documentation from Delaware County Bank yet.
Okay.
Item 8A, recently had a discussion. Well, the board heard from our property insurance representative and later received an email indicating that an increase in our deductible on our comp and collision coverage would yield a savings of $1,659 if we were to increase that deductible to $1,000. And I wanted to bring that before the board to get your feelings. And I think Mr. McCarthy, if they would like to move ahead, do we do that by consensus or by resolution?
I'm sorry, Joel, I was looking at something.
Remember I suggested that maybe increasing the deductibles at the one meeting, and Joel's telling us more about that. Is that
I'll tell you,
okay?
I'd do a vote on that. You're going to be requesting a modification of the contract. I'd just make it a matter of record. It won't take too
You said it's from $500 to $1,000 deductible would be a savings of $1,659 per year?
$1,659.
And how much do we pay right now, total premium?
58,000.
58?
Something like that, yes.
How many incidents do we have per year?
I don't believe we made any claims in the comprehensive collision at all. Most are somebody else's fault, and they're covered by their insurance.
What about the last few years?
She didn't get back to me with specific
Okay.
numbers.
And we can table that if we need to.
Do you want yeah, I mean, if you want to find out some more of the statistics of the previous years.
I think the recommendation is to go ahead and raise that deductible to $1,000 for the comprehensive collision.
Whose recommendation?
Experience from the insurance company.
Yeah,
the
good.
underwriter.
Yeah, because I asked him to email me that information. I guess he emailed it to Joel. I think it's a good idea then.
So you said you needed a resolution on that, Mr. McCarthy?
I would suggest to do a resolution.
Or do you want to, is he pretty difficult for
Just doing an ad hoc.
I don't know. That's a good idea. That
Yeah, you
might
don't really anything, authorize the increase, $1,000 comp collision deductible.
Authorize, yeah.
Yeah.
Do I, or Walters, Reinhardt Walters, Danner Insurance?
Reinhardt Walters,
Danner.
and that's a new one. So motion to go ahead and increase the comp collision deductible to $1,000 to Reinhardt Walters Danner Insurance.
Wait, but for which coverage? Which
Comprehensive
policy?
collision deductibles.
So the comprehensive collision vehicle, there's a name for the insurance. What's it called?
Ohio Plan Risk Management?
No, that's the name of the company.
That's probably. Joel, do you know what it's called? It's called, Plan Advantage. Just says proposal. See, it covers, I don't see an actual name, but you should, of course, we need to make sure we're not raising our deductible. What do we call it in the resolution? Does someone have minutes from, when did we pass that? May or June 4th? June 8th? Yeah, I think it was the 4th. If someone has those minutes, they can just, I'm assuming that there's a name of the policy.
The one, Ohio Plan Risk Management for Reinhardt Walters Danner Insurance for liability and property insurance. And risk management insurance, or services, was the heading on the entire.
Right, but that's for the entire.
Yeah,
Right.
and it would be under the property insurance.
For liability and property insurance and risk management services, right?
Is that good? We can just have Marion cut and paste that. Marion, do you see that? Yeah, liability and property insurance and risk management services. I just want to make sure we weren't raising the deductibles on some other insurance plan that we have.
Right, yeah, it's not the actual thing, right? So, motion, I'd like to make a motion for the contract with Ohio Plan Risk Management Inc. through Reinhardt Walters Danner Insurance for liability and property insurance and risk management services be be modified for the increase to $1,000 for comprehensive collision deductibles.
Second.
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Mr. Randall?
Yes.
Next item is May financials.
Yes, all of you should have received copies in your box, and you've had those to review, and tonight, by consensus, to sign.
Any questions?
I did not.
No questions? Therefore, the May financials are approved by consensus.
Item 8C, supplemental appropriation to cover provision coverage for the maintenance department for the remainder of the year. Any questions?
So what was that needed for, Joel?
Provision coverage for the maintenance department for the rest of the year,
Right, but why was it a supplemental appropriation?
because there wasn't enough appropriated beginning of the year, and there are times when we progress throughout the year, that maybe the coverage changed, or there simply wasn't enough money appropriated. So we have to then appropriate that.
Did they maybe have an increase, a plan increase or something? They did, yes?
I don't know if that's the case, I'm saying
Okay.
that may be one of the issues.
Any other questions? Motion to authorize a supplemental appropriation from 1000-330-323-000 to account 1000-330-224-0000 in the amount of $600 for vision coverage for the maintenance department for the rest of the year.
Second?
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Ms. Taranto?
Yes.
Item 8D, purchase orders. 8D1 to Delaware County Treasurer, the amount of $9,544.32 for second half property taxes. Item 8D2, Ohio Job and Family Services for $1,466 for unemployment. The unemployment payment, we pay unemployment as it's submitted, and we incur the liability, and there was an employee who filed for unemployment, and we're paying that cost.
Any questions?
Nope.
Making a motion authorization to a purchase order to Delaware County Treasurer in the amount of $9,544.31 for second half property taxes.
Second.
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
Ms. Taranto?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Making a motion authorization to a purchase order to Ohio Job and Family Services in the amount of $1,466 for May 2012 unemployment taxes.
Second?
Ms.
That was
Knapp?
me, yeah.
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Ms. Taranto?
Yes.
The item 8E and 8F. 8E listed a vendor wrong to release payment to, which needs to be modified. You'll see in the template the former resolution listing the wrong vendor, as well as previous resolution 12-206 for the same reason.
Any questions? Motion to modify resolution 12-205. The text of the resolution listed the wrong vendor to release payment to. The correct vendor should be Philip Patterson, DBA Patterson Pools.
Second.
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
Ms. Taranto?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Motion to modify resolution 12-206. The text of the resolution listed the wrong vendor to release payment to. The correct vendor should be Philip Patterson, DBA Patterson Pools.
Second?
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Ms. Taranto?
Yes.
Item 8G, periodically we receive notices of estate tax, and we have to request that those be released. And the reason why it shows 75% is because they will only release that much until they receive settlement of the full amount.
Any questions?
No.
No.
Motion to request the county auditor to immediately release 75% of the township estate tax.
Second?
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Ms. Taranto?
Yes.
We don't need that second.
I was going to say.
I think she listed it that way because we received two notices.
Right.
But I'll send this one resolution. The next item, 8H, Certificate of District Board of Health as to the amount to be included in taxing district's budget. Every year we receive notice from the Delaware County General Health District indicating how much we are liable for in terms of supplementing their budget, and it's based on our population. To be included, and it's really just to bring notice to the board when we move to 2013 budget preparations that I'm not sure Ms. Mesmer, just making note here, that our portion of that is $46,307.20. And that's just a notice. No action is needed this time.
No actions needed? You don't need a resolution?
No.
Okay. Okay, anything else?
No, sir.
Okay, moving on to old business.
Can we take a small break?
Yeah, or can we get, I'll tell you what, can we get rid of the zoning board compensation and then take a break?
Sure.
Let's get, if it's okay with the board, we'll go ahead and let's get to the zoning commission compensation, zoning appeals compensation. Change, are there any questions in regards to that? Seeing that,
But yeah, did you say, so it was $60 before for zoning commission, right?
it was 60 before,
2004, yes.
since 2004 it was 60.
And the BZA was $40.
Right, and that was 2004, right?
Yes.
2004, okay. So, and then it was $40 going to $50 for BZA. Is that what you're saying? But there's people who are here
Right.
that were not at those meetings, so I'd like them to understand what we're doing. So we're basically increasing our board members' pay rate, our BZA and zoning commission, because they haven't been raised for years. Okay, any more questions?
Any questions? Motion for the adoption of the following resolution, whereas section 519.05 of the Ohio Revised Code provides the Board of Township Trustees may establish a compensation for the members of the zoning commission. Be it resolved that the compensation for the member of the zoning commission with the regular or alternate member is established at $75 per meeting for each meeting in which they participate as a member of the zoning commission, effective immediately. Paychecks shall be issued at the end of each quarter.
Second.
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Mr. Randall?
Yes.
Give a motion to adoption of the following resolution, whereas section 519.13 of the Ohio Revised Code provides the Board of Township Trustees may approve and provide a compensation for the members of the Board of Zoning Appeals. Be it further resolved that the compensation for a member of the Board of Zoning Appeals, whether a regular or alternate member, is established at $50 per meeting for each meeting in which they participate as a member of the Board of Zoning Appeals, effective immediately. Paid checks shall be issued at the end of each quarter.
Second.
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Ms. Randall?
Yes.
We're going to take a 10-minute recess.
Yes. Are you leaving?
Stay around?
We can get that next week on his staff. There's on
Yeah, that's unfortunate we didn't get involved in that. No, I understand. We'll try to find out as much as we can. Yeah, I know, so did I. No, I didn't. Hold on a second. Hey, Mary Ann, are you ready?
Yep.
Great. Return to regular session. Next item on the business is item 9A, records requests. One of the items here was just a follow-up from last meeting to find out what the status is of the public records request for the videotapes of previous meetings, which Trustee Knapp indicated that she was going to seek legal services, and our goal was to maybe get an update on the status of that and next steps.
Well, I'd like to state for the record that the county prosecutor's, his opinion is just an opinion. It's not a court order mandate, and that his letter states that the videos may be considered public records. My attorney is still looking into the issue. He's bogged down currently with a jury trial, but preliminarily he does not feel the cited case law supports the three elements that make an item a public record. He feels that one is deficient. So that's where we're at right now.
Has there been any more requests?
I previously sent an email after the meeting indicating what had taken place. And to my knowledge, I think, let me see here.
Who did you send the email to?
The individual requesting the videos,
Who is that?
Buddy Wilson. And I don't think he responded for the video in terms of wanting it now. I'm just trying to pull it up.
Mr. McCarthy, just in your experience, have you ever ran across where prosecutor's opinion was more or less viewed as an opinion and not...
That would not be a legal opinion. I'll be honest, there was a reason I was not brought in this situation. I just suggest we keep it that
Gotcha.
way.
Right, it's an opinion. Would actually have to go possibly to court and get a mandate too for that.
Referring to my opinion?
No.
No.
Prosecutor's opinion over some videos.
I think at this point, I mean, what we have on the table is a public records request, regardless of where the person lives or who the person is. We have a records request on the table. By law, I'm obligated to fulfill that request. I think I took the appropriate steps of requesting a legal opinion rather than forcing the issue and requested a legal opinion, mind you, from an unbiased party that offered an impartial legal opinion, who, by the way, would be representing the township in legal action in the event that this Buddy Wilson were to bring the issue into court. Statutorily, I have an obligation to fill. I think we're extending the bounds of reasonableness in terms of fulfilling the records request. I think the initial request was made almost 2 months ago. And at this point, I think I'd like the board's permission to seek legal counsel to file a writ of mandamus, ordering that the records be turned over for the purposes of filling the records request.
I think that is inappropriate because these videos have not been deemed to be public record in a court of law. So I'm not sure why it's not gone to court, number one. Number two, why would the fiscal officer, why would we waste township money trying to get a case, getting mandamus? when Mr. Wilson would need to step forward and do that. Why on earth would we waste hundreds or thousands of dollars of taxpayer money trying to pursue that if Mr. Wilson would be the one that took the next step?
I think previously you had argued that it was appropriate, that if legal action was necessary, that township resources be expended for that purpose.
Is that relevant? That's not relevant in this case, Mr. Spitzer. I'm a trustee now.
It's entirely relevant because you're making the argument that township resources or monies shouldn't be expended for this purpose.
For items that were definitely public records. There is
no
case law.
other way to deem the items public record without entering court.
And additionally, I have sought legal counsel, so I'm not an attorney, neither are you, and my attorney is an attorney. So
I guess my question is, this is really over just videos, so what's the big holdup? I don't understand I mean, they're just videos. Is there a reason why you don't want to provide them? I
don't need to provide no reasons. The bottom line is also that the township would have to supply me, because if I'm being sued in my professional capacity as a trustee, the township would also have to provide me with my own attorney.
Well, that would be a matter for the prosecutor's office.
Well, it's likely. So we're going to waste a lot of money on something that this Buddy Wilson is trying to get a hold of these.
Again, you're willing to go ahead and put the township into a situation just because over a video.
They are my
I'm talking
videos.
about a video that is of a meeting that is just a meeting.
So Mr. Wilson is willing to sue the township over just a dumb video? Kind of goes both ways, doesn't it?
I think what's happening here is the burden to fulfill a records request is being shifted from you to me as the records custodian, and I'm put in a precarious position to have to deny a records request when I have a legal opinion to which I forwarded to the person. And I think, the burden is on me to fulfill the records request.
But you can't do that unless I give it to you, and as of now, I'm not giving it to you, so.
Which is why I'm asking the board for an opportunity.
Has Mr. Wilson stated that he intends to pursue mandamus?
I mean, not in email.
No, it's not. Until the paperwork is filed in court requesting a mandamus, the township would be wasting its money on a potential situation.
We see several issues brought in by you of import by residents, and I think now we're minimizing another resident's need for services from the township, and we're shifting the burden, mind you, the statutory obligation to fill records to a resident to force the issue.
Mr. Wilson is a resident?
I'm not sure who he is. What I'm saying is, a resident of any, he could be a resident of Alaska and he has a right to those records.
Right, I'm aware of that.
So what I'm saying is, in all your dutiful comments here week in and week out of fulfilling residents' needs, we're now backtracking on that and seemingly ignoring our statutory obligation and pushing the burden of filing a writ or forcing somebody to force us to do something that, as a records custodian, I've done all the appropriate steps, I've been impartial about it.
No, I disagree. You've not been impartial.
The fact remains that we have a legal opinion stating their public record. I've asked for them over the course of almost 2 months, and I just want to fill a records request.
Well, if the township is willing, first of all, I serve Orange Township residents, not residents of other areas. I was elected to do that. Second of all, once again, it's simply a legal opinion. There's no definitive case law on whether or not videos are actually considered public records, and it does not meet preliminarily this one of the elements. The case law that was cited, it was not relevant. So
what was the element that doesn't meet?
It doesn't have to be all three.
Yes, it does. It must meet all three elements in order to.
I think your argument is on point that you serve township residents, and by serving township residents, you have a duty to be cognizant of their money and forcing the township into a legal issue where you yourself argued that a considerable amount of expenses would be expended, that you may be negating that responsibility that you espouse. I mean,
no, you're attempting, however, to take away my rights. I believe that these are my videos. They are not public records. They are my rights. You're actually violating my rights by requesting it.
I'm not working off subjective notions. I'm working off an objective opinion from our legal counsel who represents the township, Mr. This is not me asking for records. This is not me wanting to ignore the fiduciary responsibility or the statutory obligation.
And I'm going to read from the prosecutor's letter again, once again. As a premise to addressing your questions, it is important to remember that a township's obligations under public records law are derived from the Ohio Revised Code. There are 3 elements. If an item meets all 3 parts of the definition, that it is a record potentially subject to disclosure. So yes, all 3 elements do need to be met, and it says it is a record potentially subject to disclosure.
My question remains to the board. I'd like to file a writ of mandamus forcing the issue so that I may do my job.
Even though, why would you waste township money again when Mr. Wilson not filed a written?
I mean, I think it's a perfect opportunity to, expose the fact that once again we have a deflection that it's not you wasting township money, but it's me wasting township money. By the very nature that you're denying the records, that really, it doesn't make sense that they're being denied.
It's a video.
Not
Right, it's a video that
But
you post.
let's just take the hours that we've spent discussing this and talking about it, and the money wasted there when we could have moved on to something else that's actually productive.
Right.
I mean,
Let's
over
move on now.
a request of a video.
So here's the long run of the sequence of events that will happen. I don't fulfill the record because you won't give them to me. So then this Mr. Wilson files a writ of mandamus against me, so you're not on the hook, I'm on the hook. So then, eventually, or shortly after that, you'll post something online that, oh look, Fiscal Officer Spitzer has not filled a records request, thus has a writ of mandamus.
No, you have an excuse that I had not provided. What, are you going to come to my house and search my house? That's
No, that's what I'm saying.
out of your control. That would be blamed on me.
This is how these excuses evolve and they start to.
No, that's you're saying you're being objective, you're being subjective there and accusing me of what I would do or could do or should do.
I'm not
okay?
accusing you, I'm taking real examples of misleading information that's online. And from your subjective opinion and selective.
Which I'm entitled to have.
You
Freedom
are.
of speech.
You are, and I think a lot of people appreciate that.
Thank you.
So, but I think for the most part, the videos are public record. May I have the videos to turn them over to somebody who's requesting it?
Not at this time.
To the board. May I seek legal counsel and finally a writ of mandamus?
Do you have to file a writ of mandamus? Can you just go to the prosecutor's office and tell them what Ms. Knapp's response is and what they would advise the next step to be?
As the township legal counsel, I'm sure yes.
But that's just it says it is potentially subject to disclosure. So the township, this is just over a video. The township is willing to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars for something that will probably never happen in all likelihood.
You're right, it's just a video. And the understanding of not why you just go ahead and turn it over for someone that wants a record
Because
request.
I don't think it's a public record and neither does my attorney, so at this point. So
I guess my point is that there's nothing big deal, it's just a video. And if someone's requesting it, what's the big deal just turning it over? I don't understand what the holdup is.
It's not your business what the holdup is or what I think about the videos. It's none of your business. I don't need to share with you why I don't wish to release them.
Mr. Spitzer, just go ahead and proceed to the prosecutor's office and ask their as a legal counsel.
Wait, are you instructing him? Or is this a consensus of the board? Because are you instructing him as an individual board member to do that?
Technically, I don't need consensus from the board.
For him to follow up with that.
What are you going to follow up with exactly?
I'll follow up with the prosecutor's office.
In what way?
Well, I mean, I guess through discussion with the
if it's going to be consensus, obviously you're going to have to abstain from it.
Right, but I'm asking, no, the last discussion, somebody was asking for information from the Attorney General's office, and then it ended up being this huge, long, subjective request, and I want to make sure that it's clear what we're asking for here.
Well, we aren't asking for anything. Me, as an independently elected
what you are
official
asking.
responsible for the records, I will ask and have a conversation.
And what will
with
you
the prosecutor.
ask? What are you going to be
I
asking?
think that it will come out in conversation with the prosecutor's office.
So Mr. Quigley is not instructing you to do anything?
Well, I think
If he's asking for the board to make a decision, consensus, is there consensus for Mr. Spitzer to go ahead and contact the prosecutor's office for legal advice on this matter? There is.
Okay.
And I will be contacting the prosecutor as well to ask about getting my own attorney paid for by the township.
Well, you just said that you have your own attorney.
I know, well, he's advised that because this is in my professional capacity, not my personal capacity, that the township most likely will have to provide me with an attorney.
But you said you were seeking personal counsel.
I am seeking personal counsel. I need to check with the prosecutor to see if I'm allowed to have that. Did I not explain that right?
And what
We're
would-
just asking for their opinion, are we not?
Right, on how to proceed.
Yeah.
Right, and I'm going to ask for an opinion as well. In fact, I believe then that our representative will have to end up recusing himself, and you'll have to get somebody else because he does represent all four of us.
Does the board provide Ms. Knapp with counsel to further investigate the issue on her behalf?
Well, they haven't provided counsel. I'm going to have to discuss with the prosecutor's office.
No, I'm asking if they've provided consensus for you to go ahead and,
To contact the prosecutor's office?
just given me consensus to contact the prosecutor's office to figure out the next steps. I'm just curious.
They don't need to give me, they don't need, I was saying no consensus was necessary because you said you're an independent office, so I'm also being an independent office to ask my own opinions of the prosecutor.
Well, you were asking whether or not, as a board, we're allowed to direct them, and as you pointed out, we needed consensus to do that, so that's what we did.
No, he
We
said
directed
that that wasn't necessary. He was an
You're
independent
right,
office.
but you also made the point that I wasn't directing him, he was in his independent office.
Right.
He was asking the board, so the board did a consensus.
So I'm saying it's not necessary to do so. In either case, it's not necessary.
I will proceed.
Okay. Next item is minutes discussion. I believe that was put on there by Trustee Knapp.
Actually, I do have one issue with the changes to the agenda. And this category here was changed from what I originally asked it. Now, there's two different categories. The procedure is we all three submit our agenda items to Ms. Ross. And she sends the agenda out and you review it. And at the last meeting, one of my items got changed. And I asked you to please in the future give me a email or a phone call, something, or preferably emails, or have Mary Ann send an email advising me that my agenda item had been changed. And so you promised me at the last meeting that you would do that. And then once again, I had asked that it was records, public and other records requests, and you changed it to records request.
Yeah, as I pointed out in my email, there was duplicate items that were consolidated. I didn't have as you mentioned, you also promised to provide me a courtesy email of items that you added, which I didn't receive any. So I assumed it was still under records requests.
Wait,
discussion.
say that again, I'm sorry, what?
At the previous meeting, you said that you will provide courtesy emails and items that you add to the agenda.
But they're added to the agenda, so why would I need to tell you they were on the agenda?
Backup documentation so
Backup
we can
documentation.
prepare.
And what did I not provide you with?
You didn't tell us what it was about. And so I thought it was all in general records request from what was the discussion that was going on. You didn't provide an email.
And I told you
basing
that it did not cover it. I sent you an email back that said that.
And that was after the fact the agenda already went out.
Because you changed the agenda, I received the agenda, I noticed the agenda had been changed. And that was when the agenda went out.
There were duplicate items on there that were of similar nature. I didn't get received. As you said you would, provide a courtesy email of what the topics are.
Oh,
They seem duplicate
okay.
over there, so I tried to merge it so we didn't have duplicate items on the agenda.
That's funny because there are some items here that, let's see, there are some items at this meeting which I was actually not provided information on, and I did not even mention. I have to look that up. There's at least two items here that I was not provided with information on beforehand. Oh, the BZA and Zoning Commission.
Yes, you were. We had a meeting on it saying, we were in
Yeah, we had a
executive
meeting, but
session.
I had no idea if you were changing
We
something.
were on executive session.
And we left that meeting saying he's going to do the resolutions.
Right, but and maybe something had changed since then. It was not tabled, it was actually added to the agenda. So I was unclear as to when I saw that, I had no idea what was going on. Maybe you found that we weren't able to do it. I mean, I have no idea.
At the last meeting, it was stated for Mr. McCarthy to work on resolutions for that, and that would be at the next meeting.
So then why wasn't it on the original agenda?
What do you mean it wasn't?
You
Oh.
added that at the beginning.
It was something that we were waiting to see if he could fill into his
I didn't know anything about that either, so if you're gonna ask me for that, then,
As we discussed before, some items do get added at last minute for the fact that Mr. McCarthy is still working on it from a resolution
And
standpoint.
what were the items I did not give you information on for this evening?
Well, some of them were carryovers from previous meetings, so that those were still in there.
Right, well, I see nothing on here that, that I added that I didn't give you information on. So you just said, well, you told me that you...
No, not on here. On the initial one that was provided me to review, there was an item on there which was a public request, records request or something. It's somewhat duplicate of what was already being discussed to have on there, so it was consolidated.
Did
So
you
we
send
didn't
me a
have two
courtesy
items.
email and say, Ms. Knapp, oh, I'd like to consolidate this? No, you just made a decision.
Well, I didn't have any information from you that would help me provide to make that statement.
Do you
as
ask for
provided
information
concerning
from all
information.
other officials, exact information to put something? The bottom line is, I've never seen an agenda item changed like that without the other trustee notified. I've never seen that. It's happened twice now.
Oh, that's not true. And here's the thing.
You've changed things?
Whoa, wait a minute.
Wait,
Hold
you've
it, hold
changed
it.
things for
Hold it.
other, on the agenda,
Hold
not
it,
when another trustee
hold
knows.
it. Listen, I know you.
I just want to answer my question.
I don't think you're as aware of things that transpired over the last 13 years during a trustee meeting as you might be aware of, but agendas get modified without trustees knowing all the time. It happened many a time.
Do you change their item? The
There's
item
many,
that they
there's
put
things that
on
don't
there?
even make it, there's things that don't even make it on there.
And they get a courtesy email. I can
No.
imagine if I was a
They don't.
chairperson.
They
How would you know
They
that
don't.
if you were a
They
zoning
don't.
secretary?
I just know that doesn't happen.
Yes, it does.
Jim showed up, Jim made him show
But
up.
how would you know the
several
emails that go
times.
back and forth?
It's just called professional courtesy. I'm assuming prior boards have
No.
professional courtesy. You don't change something.
But you're assuming,
You don't change
you've
something
done
that
this, you've
someone
done this
has
a
to
million
put on.
times, assuming what the prior board's done, and the fact is,
It's
you don't
unprofessional.
know.
It's unprofessional. You
You're
decided
right,
to
it's
change.
unprofessional that you didn't
unprofessional.
provide information to the rest of the board.
On what?
Your items that you had on there.
Tonight?
The
No,
ones that you had on the
last two
initial
meetings.
agenda. In fact,
We're talking
wait a
about the
minute.
agenda for the last month. Is
No,
that- or
I'm
for the
talking
last
about
meeting?
what you-
I'm talking about the, right now, right here,
You're
this
right.
meeting, that we're not talking about the past.
You're right, the
It's
items
this
that you
meeting.
wanted to put onto the agenda that was provided to me Friday that I reviewed, you had two items on there that were
Yep.
not, that you did not provide any information on.
So you just went ahead and took them off for that reason?
No,
Yes,
they
you
look
did.
similar to something that was already being on there, so I consolidated.
I asked,
If you wanted to go ahead and follow up discussion on it, there is no problem with you. It says records request.
I said, no, records request, it's one. That was the one we just discussed. I said public and other records requests. How, that is vastly different than
Public and other
record.
records requests. How is that different than records requests?
Because there's another request I'm going to discuss.
How is public and records, okay, that's fine. It's still open. You can still discuss it.
Well, if you.
Why are you making a big deal about something that's a duplicate?
I don't know
that's on
why
there?
you, if I was a chairperson and you had submitted something and I needed to change it, I would send you, absolutely send you or any other trustee.
Actually, the
courtesy
fact
email.
is, you don't email us barely ever with any information.
That is not relevant right now. If you have questions, you can feel free
And
to
that's a good
ask me
point. You said it's not
anytime.
relevant because you don't do it.
You can
You don't
ask me,
provide courtesy
have you
emails
taken
to
an
us.
email out
You don't-
asking me for information? Because I would give it to you. If you have a question, send me an email, I'll get it to you, but you don't do
I think
that.
it's clear.
I don't know why we're entertaining questions from him
I
because
think
you
it's clear
are
that
not
the
part of
chairman
this.
entertained your items by not putting public records requests, he simply put records requests, which would become an umbrella for the items you had.
And I completely agree with
No,
that.
records
analysis.
request, it's one records request, which is the Buddy Wilson incident. I have multiple ones.
Records. as opposed to-
Records request.
That would be records requests.
Irrelevant. It's still open.
To you
You're
it is.
cutting, you're,
Okay, if you say I can discuss it, then I'm going to discuss it.
and that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. I just didn't want a
Give me a
million
courtesy
items. I
email.
just didn't
I'd
want a
like
million items on the
I'd like a
agenda.
courtesy.
to
Can you
load
give me a
up.
courtesy email next time?
And if you give me a courtesy email on the items you had too.
If you aren't clear about something that I do, email me and I will make you clear. I don't know what you're clear on. I don't know what you're not clear on. I don't know how your mind works. If you have a question and you don't understand
But
something, you can
it's the same
email me.
expectation you want from all the directors. You want them to provide you all the information that you don't have to go out and
We're not talking
dig it
about
up.
that. We're talking about
It's the
right
same
now.
courtesy, that's professionalism.
We are
If you
talking
provide-
about
as you
the
talk about
agenda item.
professionalism,
I don't
you
know
would
why-
provide information as you
If
move
you
forward.
have
If you have another
information,
item to
you-
talk on here, go please
I
forward
do,
and
but if
talk.
you have information you need from me, you just email me and I will give it to you. Okay.
I think it was a question of professionalism. You point down to me and say, I don't know why we're entertaining.
Yeah, I don't know why you.
Well, I think it's very rude. It's very unprofessional.
Well, you're not part of the board, and I don't know why you have to get up and do a bunch of speeches when it's not something that really involves you. Anyway, I have a question here. On May 30th, I asked Mr. Spitzer for copies of the township certificates of estimated resources and for the past 6 years. And as you know, when I had gone to the audit, he was upset when I had gone to the auditor's office in January to get information. He told me that if I needed information from the fiscal office, all I had to do was ask. So here I asked for 6 years of certificate of estimated resources, which is something that I as a trustee am entitled to have, and I needed to look at. It's our budget information. So he said he would not make copies, Connie would not make copies. Ms. Knapp may schedule a time with me at which I will pull the certificate of estimated resources for her to make copies. And he wouldn't email me directly, he went through Connie. And then I wrote back, you are the township records keeper. As an elected official, I'm entitled to get copies. Your request is not reasonable. Please ask Connie to make the copies. So then Mr. Spitzer wrote back, we are not a secretary to a trustee, therefore we will not make copies of the requested items for a trustee. They are available for her to schedule a time to copy for herself, thus her entitlement to the documents is not impeded. He's not going to discuss any further. And then I said, and we've had this discussion before, you are the records custodian and responsible for the safekeeping of these and other important documents. As we've discussed before, it's really not advisable or safe to have a third party other than you or Connie handling the original records unattended, as it could affect their integrity permanently. The documents would be damaged, lost, misplaced. And I asked again for copies, but the copies, once again, were not provided to me. So I would like to, if I come and make the copies, I would have had to be supervised copy. Why would you not give me these documents, copies? I was able to get them from another source.
I'll be very clear about this. I'm not going to continue to be your secretary or provide a medium for you to work through to do all of your dirty work. I will no longer do your grunt work.
This is my dirty work. Asking for budget information is dirty work?
No, the dirty work is all the things that you put online.
All right, but how does that relate to the, right, how does that relate to this?
From the Township Mole website to present.
How does that relate to this? How does that relate to my request? I requested the township certificates.
You didn't read the
estimated
entire email,
resources.
which I will say, the entire string.
What else do you want me to read?
Never once did I say you would be unattended, so as you like to say,
All right, so it'd be a
back
waste.
to being unsupervised.
And you decided to make an appointment. So basically, I would have to come in and then I would actually be copying them supervised. Which,
Right.
what is the difference between me copying supervising and having Connie or you standing there versus one of you
Because
guys making
I'm no longer
copies?
wasting township resources
That's not a waste,
for your
that's-
frivolous pursuits.
That's not a waste. I am entitled to,
Ask
you would not give
Mr.
me
McCarthy.
copies of the budget information for the township.
Mr.
And
McCarthy,
you could have
is
emailed
the
it to
fiscal
me.
office a administrative assistant or secretary to the board?
That's not the
I will be
question.
happy to provide an opinion as to the level of access that is the relationship
Right.
between.
I would like to know if I'm allowed to request copies.
Alternatively, I would suggest possibly everyone would be happier if you asked the prosecutors.
Great. I
Let's
think,
do that.
I think I've had that discussion, and
Just asking for copies of the budget is not really a big deal. I mean, do the other trustees feel
Ms.
that
Knapp,
that's appropriate?
I provided you an opportunity to come in to copy them for yourself,
Right.
which you are an employee here, you have access to the copier, you had unimpeded access to the documents.
No, you don't have unimpeded access to the documents. They're locked in a drawer.
To schedule an appointment with me,
Right, at your convenience.
and no, I said make an appointment.
At your convenience it would be.
And I never said at my convenience.
It would have to be at your convenience, obviously.
No, I
You're on
think when two
24/7.
people are trying to meet to get together, I think it's at the convenience
The
of
bottom
both.
line, you would not give me copies of the documents. You were going to make me make my own copies of the budget for the last, and you had told me months ago, when I went to the auditor's office, there's nothing I can get there that I could not get from you, and to go.
Ms. Knapp, I didn't hold you up from getting the documents.
No, I was
I'm
able to
simply
get them,
not.
but it took an extra 5 days to get them.
I'm simply not going to be your secretary.
I'm not asking you, my secretary, I'm asking you to provide copies of the budget for the last 6
Here as
years.
it stands in public session.
That is a
I will
reasonable
not
request.
make one more copy for you.
That is a reasonable request.
I've made probably 4,000 copies of documents for you over the course of 5 years.
Do you think this is appropriate, that he's not giving me budget information?
Ms. Knapp, I'm giving them to you. I'm saying come in and copy them yourself.
I asked for copies, I did not say.
I'm not going to
copy
make you
them.
copies, that's clear.
Right, okay.
I'm not making you copies. I don't make Mr. Quigley copies. I don't make Mr. Taranto copies. And I'm tired of
Well, I
wasting.
was able to get them from the auditor's
I'm
office,
tired
so
of
I will
wasting
just
township
I will
resources
contact
for
the
your
auditor's
frivolous
office.
pursuits.
That's not frivolous.
I've copied over
Copies of
4,000
budget.
pages of documents for you.
I think it's time to go ahead and move on from that situation. I will say though that when I do request, I come in and
Right.
I work with the department.
You
But
go in, you speak with Connie, she gives you the document, you go copy it, you come back.
in any
Wait, so
event,
you
let's
do
go
copy
ahead
it
and, let's go ahead and move on
With
to...
Ms. Martin. I mean, you just sit for a moment, fire off emails. No, I clarified there, so before you put it on YouTube, yes, with Ms. Martin, he does go copy his own copies.
With her standing right there?
Yes.
You just said Connie gave it to him, he goes and copies it.
And she walks over there with him. She has to hand it to him for him to copy it.
Okay, all right, got it.
Moving on to the next item, minute discussion. Actually, I think this was that your item? Or no? Ms. Knapp's, sorry.
My item.
I believe this is a follow-up to the discussion about the possibility of modifying, or going ahead and modifying the current format.
Right. Okay. As I stated at the last meeting, I believe that the minutes is new, and I did read the sets of minutes, the abbreviated set of minutes, and I found it to be completely inadequate. It, well done, but in my opinion, inadequate. It was a very lengthy meeting, and it was basically 9.5 pages long. Let's see. According to the Sunshine Law, the 2012 version, a public body must keep full and accurate minutes of its meetings. Those minutes are not required to be a verbatim transcript of the proceedings, so it must include enough facts and information to permit the public to understand and appreciate the rationale behind the public body's decisions. So I do not believe, and I know you say I can vote no, but it doesn't matter. The records are actually won't exist even if I vote no on these. So in my opinion, this action is completely unacceptable and will be a disservice to our residents who do not always have time to come to our meetings and who rely on the minutes to see what's going on. We've been doing the minutes this way for decades, and I'm not sure why we're changing them now. And to me, it makes it look like we're trying to hide something by cutting them down.
That's not completely true. In fact, they've grown over the last 5 months more than they have been in the past.
Well, proportional to the length of the meetings.
No, we've had meetings for 7 hours.
There's a disclaimer referring the reader to the audio, which, by the way, would give the reader and the requester way more information than they would under the old version.
Yeah, so you can listen to a 5-hour audio tape, or you can spend half an hour looking through minutes. No one's going to want to look through the audio.
How long does it take you to review videos and make commentary?
Joe, that's not relevant.
It is relevant. What I'm saying is if somebody wants the information.
Right, we have 25,000 residents, and I think that this is going to be serving them.
Actually, I think the summary of the security in the township office is pretty good. The summary of the public and other records request is pretty good.
Well, like I said, there are some things.
Provides an overview, a good overview of the discussion.
I know we can do it, but it's a matter of should we do it. We can do a lot of things, that doesn't mean it's appropriate. And also the information that was referenced in the email regarding this was from 2006 and 2007, and I don't know why we just didn't use the more current versions from 2012.
Twice before, when you were doing minutes, it was requested by myself and Mr. Cassidy that you reduce the volume because we had received notice from the auditor that our minutes are entirely too long.
And in 1990, I believe. Was it 1990? So
we have received.
That was from 1990. That wasn't
I think it
applicable.
goes to the weight of the argument that we received notice that our minutes are entirely too long.
And
we did the minutes for 11 years.
It could be 1990. Mr. Cassidy wasn't.
Well, we know we did not get it when Mr. Cassidy was there. He's talking about an old opinion from, I believe, 1990 or 1998, and that he's referring to. And everybody now says, oh, the auditors gave us a legal opinion. That was from years ago. That was when the old set of minutes, when Kathy Cantor was doing a humongous 50-page word-for-word minutes. That was when the auditors, I would like the auditor to review our minutes now. I believe that he did, or the office did. There has been no problem with the minutes from the auditor's office for years. That recommendation, I believe, was from, well, maybe it was 2000, maybe it was 2001 or 99. It was forever ago. It was not even relevant to this. So you can't take an old opinion and
All were made in
talk about
1950, but I guess we shouldn't follow.
No, but you can't apply that. That auditor's office has not had the opportunity to review the minutes as they were and make an opinion. They have not cited us or mentioned that for all these years, so it's no longer relevant. All these audits they've done, they've never once said our minutes are too long, and it has been years. So people need to stop referring to that. I'm going to get a copy of that. So, so I think that I was going to suggest that we have one person here making this change that will affect 25,000 residents, and I would like to suggest that we put a survey on the listserv and on the website to ask what the residents think about this, because they're the ones that's going to affect. I'd like to put a request on the listserv to get people's preferences.
I already know, I've been approached multiple times that they would rather see an executive summary because they don't want to read through it all.
Well, that was from a Parks Board member talking about the residents.
What's wrong? She is a resident.
The rest of the residents, that's one
I know,
person.
I'm just explaining that I've received that some people would like to see.
Well, some people, but I'm just saying we should send out something on the listserv saying that the board is going to exactly this, the audio recordings, and we're going to start having audio recordings. We can send a sample out and see how people who regularly do read our minutes respond to that.
Ms. Meissner, do you remember the last time we had an opinion from the auditor's office about how long the minutes were?
I know Diane Slavin received one, I don't remember if Donna did or not, I'll have to
It was
check.
Diane Slavin regarding Kathy Cantor's work. It was, so that must have been in 2000 and, oh my gosh, I started doing the minutes. That's probably around 2001. I'll get a copy. That was the last one. We've not been, no citations, no recommendations for any of our minutes since then. I'm the one that cut them down from what Kathy was doing when I took over. Diane asked me to do that, and I did that. So people can't refer to that letter anymore.
You were twice asked to reduce them, and you, as an employee, vehemently refused.
Right, as I am now, refusing to have them reduced. I reduced them when
So you're saying that as you send out emails that other employers are insubordinate, and you absolutely refuse a request from the board and the fiscal officer?
Did not absolutely refuse. It was
Then you
casual
absolutely
discussions.
refused.
Casual
That's not-
discuss, no, absolutely not. Provide evidence of that. There were discussions about it. I
The
provided
evidence is in the
some.
work. They never changed.
Where's the evidence that you discussed it with me and I refused to do it? That's what I'm asking for, the evidence. Can you show me the
I mean, I
evidence?
think that's.
Are there areas in the minutes, the one that's been summarized, that you're in question of whether or not it's providing an accurate account? I mean, like I said, there's a really good summary of what's going on with the increased security.
We don't know it's not
There's a really
there
good
unless it's not
summary,
there.
Public and other records requests. Well, you're saying that it's not accurate, but so I'm assuming that you commented of what the issues are.
The meeting was
but-
5 hours long. This is, any other minute, a 2-hour meeting, the minutes will be 2 pages long.
So you didn't
Not
really,
adequate.
you didn't look in here to see
I
what was
did.
actually not accurate?
Would you like me to sit down and spend 40 hours transcribing how I feel the minutes?
Well, I'm just trying to figure out what's wrong with this, because I think there's actually some very good summaries in here, discussions that take place that any reader could go by and say,
How do you know
this
it's
is what happened.
missing? How would the reader know it's missing if it's not in there?
So you want it verbatim?
I did not say verbatim. I said the way the minutes used to be done.
Look,
It did
the
not say
minutes are not a
verbatim.
political platform.
Did I say they were?
For your ulterior motives. And the bottom line is, the minutes provide
What, the
enough
basics that's
detail to
required?
give the reader
I don't think
an
so.
idea of what went on at the meeting. And not only that, it goes more in depth in terms of referring the reader to the audio, which would provide more than any set of minutes since the
Yes. No one's going to,
creation.
very few people are going to have the time these days to listen to
You
the
can sit and
audio.
read 45 pages of minutes or listen to 2 hours.
It doesn't have to be that long. I was suggesting we try to cut down on them. We went from 100% to 10%
Both
here.
Genoa and Liberty do it this way, is that
I
correct?
don't think
Yes.
Yes.
Or Genoa is
Both do.
short?
Yes.
Yes.
Shorter, in fact.
In fact, they're a lot shorter.
In fact, our resolutions for purchase orders and like items
In reference to the
are
audio.
When Liberty started doing
extensive and
it,
thorough.
when
than
Liberty started doing
anybody
it,
else's.
a lot of people were really upset. So they went ahead and did it
I
because the
disagree.
responses are.
Where's documentation that people were upset?
Oh, I can go pull the newspaper clippings if you like. I
Please
can
do.
do that. There was a lot of, people were very, very upset about
Please
that.
do.
I will.
Well, I know sometimes people, having change is difficult, it's always difficult to change. I know that you personally had a hand in the minutes for so many years as zoning secretary here. So I imagine you do feel really strongly about it. I personally, when I read through these, I thought it was a great highlight of everything that happened. Mary Ann will be freed up to do the work that that she
Oh,
needs
the
to
more
be
important
doing.
work, the more important work than the minutes, pretty much.
You didn't say more.
That's not what I'm saying.
Well, how is she gonna be freed up if we don't have enough staff to do the job we're supposed to do?
Well, when you have
We don't-
5.5,
spend
6-hour
40-some
meetings,
hours
she doesn't need to
on
spend
minutes.
50 hours
Well,
on
we aren't gonna
minutes.
have very many of those meetings, that was just, and I asked for, I don't understand, you said one of the sets of, one of the meetings were 43 pages long. It took you, I'm sorry, 43 hours to do the minutes on which set of minutes was that? You never responded to my email.
Ms. Knapp, I receive 20 emails a day from you, so I'm trying to
Okay, once
slowly
again,
go through them.
you said during the meeting it was either 43 or 48 hours that Marion spent on a single set of minutes, and that's what was behind this change. What set of minutes was that?
That was May 4th, correct?
It took her that many hours, and how do you know that?
Ms. Ross keeps a log of how many hours she spends on minutes.
Per each, can I get I asked for a copy of that documentation, you're not giving me that either. I asked you for a copy of that documentation.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe that personal notes are not township record.
That, you just said she get documentation of it. That,
Personal notes,
right, and if you reference it during a meeting, then it's going to be a public record.
it's her personal notes. I will ask her if she would like to submit them.
If you use that, why does she keep that, for her own personal reasons or for township reasons? Why would she
Okay, let's
keep
go
that?
ahead and take that offline as a discussion for whatever.
Please
you
give me
need there.
those reports. Once again, though, I strongly disagree with the way the minutes are being done now.
Let's
And,
go-
wait, so we're not going to send a survey out to the residents? Asking for their input?
Again, we're having problems with listserv right now. What do you want to ask?
I would like to ask for input from residents as to whether they care if the minutes have been cut down like they are, and that we're going to modify to start doing minutes this other way. And if nobody cares, nobody cares.
I think a fair opportunity for that would need to be more thoroughly vetted to provide an example of how they were before, with an example of how they are now, and could be dumped links. I mean, again, we're wasting township resources pursuing frivolous.
It's not frivolous in my
items.
opinion. You're
And,
making, not frivolous. I'm asking for the board.
This is another example of how everyone is being forced into additional work because of.
I'll write it up, I'll write it up.
I think the results could be skewed also
Yes.
because
Right, you can log in from different domains, different IP addresses, and
No,
you get all your friends to
send
go
you
to the
an email.
website.
go all over the township and.
No, you would
and
ask
arrows
them
and
to
whatnot,
submit an
and
email to-
Continue to vote.
You would ask for the residents to simply contact the board with an email about how they feel.
And they're gonna sit and count.
Read the emails. So what are we doing about that?
Again, any type of survey like that can be skewed, even if it's an email. So the question is what's the actual validation point of those emails? Because any one person can go out and just grab a bunch of people to send emails in.
Really?
So
Or
that's,
even create pseudonyms and send an email that way. I mean, it just.
Yeah, or create pseudonyms and ask for public records, sure.
in any event.
So what I've asked for, I made a request.
How would you go ahead and validate those?
We'd send a notice out on the listserv just saying, we have this old style of minutes, and this is the new style of minutes, and this
Okay.
is gonna be our new policy, we're gonna have an audio and a summary, and see if nobody cares, nobody
And
cares.
how do you validate the actual individual being a township resident that actually, or,
Well, they would write back using their email, or they would call us. We just got no input at all on this from
Well, you know, I
anybody.
think there needs to be a way to validate who the sender is. I mean, because there's definitely some strong opinions here, and
We've never done that before, we've never asked to validate. We sent things on the listserv and asked for
Right.
opinions. And
we've
never
never
asked to
had
validate.
someone who attempts to.
So Rob, are you going, what are we gonna do? Should I write something up and present it at the next meeting?
to be honest with you, I go back to looking at the summary here, and it's actually a pretty good summary of what took place in that meeting. And maybe the idea would be go ahead and use that as a template, if you were looking for opinions, to go ahead.
I mean, we could have a special meeting and
Just have people come in and talk
have
about it.
people come in and talk about it, just like the fire levy. I mean, if that's the kind of resources.
No one's
you
gonna
might
cut,
have.
people that don't have time to listen to audio are not gonna have time to come in and talk about, people that prefer to read the minutes are not gonna have time to come in and go to the meeting. So you're saying that basically you're opposed to my idea?
No, I'm looking for options. I didn't say oppose, I said, you know, one, how are you gonna validate it, which I asked the question. Two, what are we gonna do? I mean, we could do a public session like that if we wanted to. Trustee Toronto, do you have any opinions on this?
I'm asking to put something on the listserv, asking for input on the new minutes format. That's what I'm asking for.
I thought it ultimately was your call.
It is.
And he's one person, one resident out of 25,000, he's made that decision.
To which
for
I've
everybody.
been pointed to several times tonight and saying my opinion doesn't matter. But I'm sorry, in this,
In this one, your opinion does matter, but of course, it's your area. I 100% agree with that. However, you're one person out of 25, you're one person making the decision for everybody.
so you honor my area when it comes to minutes, but not my area when it comes to the release of public records.
That's
And
not
I get very
relevant.
confused about.
Joel, let's stay on
contradicting
topic.
opinions.
Stay on topic. You're one person making decision for
I
all
mean-
these people. So you're saying that,
Valid surveys is always the watchword, and that's what we're looking for.
we're not doing a survey, I just would like, well, we could spend a whole bunch of money and send a survey out.
Seems
Maybe a
to
phone survey for
be-
$55,000.
We've increased expenses since January 1, 2012, so we may just,
So is that a no?
I'm just gonna go ahead and go down this list of minutes, and whatever you guys wanna do, you do. Motion to approve the May 21st, 2012 minutes as presented.
Second.
Mr. Quigley,
Yes.
Ms. Taranto.
Yes.
Ms. Knapp.
Yes.
Motion to approve the May 24th, 2012 minutes as presented.
Second?
Mr. Quigley,
Yes.
Ms. Taranto,
Yes.
Ms. Knapp.
Yes.
Motion to approve the May 31st, 2012 minutes as presented.
Second.
Mr. Quigley,
Yes.
Ms. Taranto,
Yes.
Ms. Knapp.
Yes.
Motion to approve the June 4th, 2012 minutes as presented.
Second?
Mr. Quigley,
Yes.
Ms. Taranto,
Yes.
Ms. Knapp.
No.
Motion to approve the minutes, approve the June 8th, 2012 minutes as presented.
Second?
Mr. Quigley,
Yes.
Ms. Taranto,
Yes.
Ms. Knapp.
No.
Seeing no other business?
Can I ask a quick question? When is the next Parks Board meeting? Wednesday. I just wanted, I meant to mention this under Parks, but can we, I haven't seen the agendas going on the listserv, like, you know, we put the agendas out here for the trustee meetings, and I thought we used to send agendas out, but we haven't been sending agendas out. I think I saw one in January, like, hey, we're having a meeting, or even for the Economic Advisory Board to, maybe sending it out a couple days before the meeting with an agenda, because I think that would, I mean, I know it's on the calendar online, but I
I
think.
thought I just saw the economics go out.
Yeah, it did.
Last week. And Parks goes out,
What's an agenda?
Parks go out tomorrow?
Yep.
Because they submit the agenda like a couple
I
days
haven't
prior.
seen, I have not seen the Parks Board agenda on the listserv for quite a while. And the economic one, I don't, maybe it went out the other day, but last week I hadn't seen any. I would just like them on the listserv.
Then it was canceled.
Yeah.
I remember reading that.
Which one?
was,
Which
yeah.
one?
Economic.
Economic development was canceled. Then it was
I might have read that, but I haven't seen, can we just put agendas online? Or send a listserv out the agenda, just like we do for trustee meetings,
As
just
far
send out Friday.
as we mentioned, as far as we know, they have been, and they.
Or if they're not,
continue.
can they be sent, please? Is that a yes?
They already are, but okay, I mean, we'll go ahead and make sure and validate again.
I haven't seen them, so I don't know.
They have, I have seen
I've
that.
seen as well.
Yeah, I-
Nothing else this meeting? This meeting adjourned.